Chapter 1580. The school anniversary was nothing more than elite representatives from all walks of life giving speeches, watching programs, and then doing whatever they wanted. How Bao Bao was dragged away by someone. Shi Shang stood alone and watched those people interact with each other. Some were trying to get close to her, some were trying to make fun of her, and some were trying to make fun of her. In short, there was only one word to describe the scene: noisy. Shi Shang found a quiet corner to stand and play with her phone. Just as she was engrossed in her game, a few women pushed Wu Yun over to her. Shi Shang stood in a better position and could see them, but those people might not be able to see her. Dark Cloud was forced to a corner, and several women tightly surrounded her. These people were not the prettiest girls group. The leader was a beautiful woman wearing branded clothes, a branded bag, and branded jewelry. The other women were obviously led by this woman who wore branded clothes from head to toe. TSK, the female lead's enemies were everywhere. This was very female lead. "You're Dark Cloud." One of the women with small eyes crossed her arms and looked at Dark Cloud as if she was a commodity. Her tone was full of condescension. Dark Cloud was half dragged and half dragged over. She looked angry. "What do you want?" "Heh, I heard that you used to be ugly. How did you become beautiful in just a few years?" One of the women held her phone and pointed it at Dark Cloud. "Did you have plastic surgery?" "I didn't." Dark Cloud frowned. Her body was not bad, but the original owner was a little fat and did not know how to dress up, so she looked like an ugly girl. "No." The woman with small eyes raised her voice. The people behind her poked her. "Lower your voice. It's not good if people hear you." The woman with small eyes looked around and lowered her voice. "These two people in front and behind you, if you didn't have plastic surgery, then what did you do? You still want to fool us. If you want to talk about my appearance, sorry, I don't have time." Dark Cloud tried to leave, but the woman with small eyes pushed her. Dark Cloud hit the wall behind her. "What do you want?" Just as the woman with small eyes was about to speak, the woman with branded clothes raised her hand. The other women immediately stopped talking. "Did you seduce Lei Ting just now?" The woman with branded clothes raised her chin slightly and looked at Dark Cloud in a superior position, as if she was looking at something disgusting. "When did I seduce him?" Dark Cloud was angry. These women were looking for trouble. Were they crazy? She took the initiative to throw herself into CEO Lei's arms. "Isn't that seduction? Why are you so cheap? Is CEO Lei someone you can covet? Why don't you take a look at your own status? Do you think you'll be able to make CEO Lei look at you in a different light with your looks? Dream on." The small-eyed woman sneered. Wu Yun's face alternated between red and green. He could not hold back his anger. "Stop talking nonsense here. When did I throw myself into his arms? We've all seen it, and you're still trying to deny it? If you have the guts to do it, why don't you have the guts to admit it?" "That's right. A person like you actually wants President Lei. What a joke." The women began to verbally attack Dark Cloud. How could Dark Cloud win against all of them? In the end, no one knew who made the first move, but Dark Cloud was bullied miserably. Of course, the woman who maintained her brand name didn't do anything. Instead, she got someone to bring a few glasses of red wine and poured it directly on Dark Cloud. Dark Cloud was wearing a white dress. When the red wine splashed on her, her dress clung tightly to her skin, outlining the scenery inside. "Wearing such cheap clothes. I wonder who invited you here." "What a joke." The small-eyed woman tugged at Dark Cloud's clothes with her sharp fingers, her face full of sarcasm. "If I see you seducing Lei again, it won't be as simple as it is today." The woman looked arrogant, like a victorious peacock. "Let's go." "Shameless." "Bitch, watch out." When they left, the lackeys did not forget to launch a round of attacks at Dark Cloud. The direction they left in was different from when they came. They happened to pass by Shi Sheng. The woman from the brand name was stunned when she saw that there were people standing there. Then her red lips curved slightly, and she swaggered past her, not caring about being seen at all. Dark Cloud stood there awkwardly with her head lowered. No one could see the expression on her face. After a while, she crossed her arms and left in the direction of the toilet. This show was boring. The male lead didn't even come out. Shi Shang leaned back against the corner and continued to play his game. Hao Baobao came back smelling of alcohol. His speech was a little slurred, but strangely, he was still sober. Su Xiaoxin, let's go. I'll take you to see someone. I'm not free. Shi Shang replied without looking up. Hao Baobao snatched his phone away. Can't you be more motivated? Don't be like an otaku. You draw L18 and play games. You're a woman. Shi Shang. Why am I, BBB, not making any progress? Could a normal person draw L18? Hao Baobao knew that his little green plum's obsession with cleanliness was gone, so he grabbed her arm and dragged her towards the crowd. You need to interact with people more. If this goes on, I'm really afraid that one day I'll go to your house and there'll only be a corpse left. I refuse to collect corpses. Hao Baobao brought Shi Shang in front of a man and patted the man's chest. Come, let me introduce you. This is my brother, Feng Ruishuan. Su Xiaoxin, my little green plum. Shi Shang looked at Hao Baobao faintly. The introducer introduced a nickname that only he knew. Was there something wrong with him? Su Xian, right? I know him. He's the top ancient illustrator in the country and a popular manga artist. The man smiled slightly and extended his hand towards Shi Shang. There was an air of elegance between his brows. Hao Baobao talks about you all the time. It's hard not to know. Shi Shang didn't extend his hand. Hao Baobao slapped Feng Ruishuan's hand away. Don't give I the chance to take advantage of you. Feng Ruishuan. Wasn't it just a polite handshake? How was that taking advantage of him? That was unreasonable. Of course, Hao Baobao would never be reasonable. He found an excuse to leave. Before he left, he didn't forget to warn Feng Ruishuan not to take advantage of him. He wanted to introduce someone to his little green plum, but he couldn't ignore his little green plum's wishes and force them to be together. If they liked each other, it would be fate. If they didn't, then there was nothing he could do. Miss Su has been working with our club recently. Speaking of which, it's fate. Feng Ruishuan maintained a smile from beginning to end. Shi Shang turned to look at Feng Ruishuan and went straight to the point. I know why Hao Baobao introduced us to each other. I'll be very direct. Sorry, I'm not interested. Feng Ruishuan was stunned. He probably didn't expect the girl to be so direct. It's okay. Just treat it as getting to know a friend. Feng Ruishuan quickly restrained his emotions. Su Xian was very beautiful and was quite pleasing to the eye. But if the girl wasn't willing, then he wouldn't be the best choice. Shi Shang looked at him coldly. I have someone I like. Why didn't Hao Baobao tell him? May I know who Miss Su likes? I don't know either. Just as he was about to say this, Shi Shang suddenly raised his hand and pointed somewhere. Him. Chapter 1581. Feng Ruishuan looked in the direction Shi Shang was pointing. His expression suddenly became interesting. Miss Su, you're not pointing randomly, are you? Shi Shang was also very happy to see his wife in the crowd. Unfortunately, his wife didn't see him at all. She didn't even look at him. What happened to telepathy? Fairy tales were all lies. Feng Ruishuan looked at Shi Shang and concluded that she was probably pointing randomly. Miss Su, do you know who he is? I don't know shit. Who is he? Feng Ruishuan. She was indeed pointing randomly. How dare she ask so shamelessly? He was willing to admit defeat. Wen Gu. Feng Ruishuan said, he's also a celebrity in our school. He's from the same cohort as Lei Tang. He's famous for being rich, but he went bankrupt later. Shi Shang. What kind of introduction is this? Before he went bankrupt, he raced, drank, and got into fights. He was also a bully in our school. Baby Hao was just a small fry. This is the real bully in our city. After he went bankrupt, Wen-gu left school for half a year. When he came back, he was a changed man. At that time, everyone said that Wen-gu wanted to start a company. However, for some reason, the company didn't start, and Wen-gu dropped out of school. After that, there was no news of him. Feng Ruishuan probably said so much to make Shi Shang give up on the idea of Wen-gu. However, it obviously didn't work. He was fascinated by his wife. Thank you. Hey. I'm not done yet. The latter waved at Feng Ruishuan and walked towards Wen-gu. However, before she got close, a group of people suddenly came over and blocked her view. Shi Shang quickly walked around them. However, Wen-gu was already gone. Shi Shang. Behind him was the exit. It was very likely that he had gone out. Shi Shang immediately ran towards the exit. It was already dark outside. Shi Shang looked around. There were many people outside. It was so dark that he could barely see their shadows. Shi Shang rubbed his hair and looked around. Finally, he fixed his eyes on a figure walking towards the exit. She ran after him. Yep, send it to me first, and I'll sort it out for you if I have any questions. As for the gift from the ancient times. Yep, I know. I'll try my best, but I can't promise anything. The man's voice came intermittently. In the night, it sounded a little lonely and emotionless. Ancient. Shi Shang paused in his steps. The author, Changxia, who brought up a lot of problems but was decisively blocked by her. Was it fake? The second generation of a bankrupt tycoon actually went to write novels? Wasn't this setting a little too strange? Pa. The crisp sound woke up Shi Shang. She looked forward and saw that Wen-gu was about to turn the corner. Shi Shang hurried to catch up with him. Halfway through, a person suddenly rushed out from the darkness. If Shi Shang hadn't dodged quickly, he would have bumped into her. Because Shi Shang dodged quickly, the person who rushed out staggered and fell to the ground with a thud. With the help of the street lamp, Shi Shang saw the person who fell in front of her. Isn't it the female lead Darren? Ape dung. Shi Shang looked forward, but the person was already gone. Asterisk flips table asterisk. Why is it so hard to chase someone? Where's Ai's sword? Shi Shang bent down decisively and was about to drag Wu Yun to the side to give him a beating. Unexpectedly, before he could touch Wu Yun, a man ran out from the side, helped Wu Yun up, and pulled her into his arms. Shi Shang. Hey, how dare you snatch someone in front of Ai? Shi Shang grabbed Wu Yun's hand and pulled him towards himself. What are you doing? Snatching someone in the middle of the night. Lei Ting exuded a cold aura. There was a palm print on his cheek, obviously caused by the crisp sound just now. He narrowed his eyes and sized up Shi Shang. This is my girlfriend. It has nothing to do with you. Let go. Girlfriend. A strange smile appeared on Shi Shang's face. I'm sorry, Mr. Lei Ting. I heard that your fiancé is inside. Shouldn't your girlfriend be your fiancé? Or are you trying to say that you're two-timing? The male lead standard fiancé X1. I'm not his girlfriend. Wu Yun didn't care that the woman in front of her had hit her before. She hurriedly defended herself and even looked at Shi Shang for help. Lei Ting half threatened her. Since you know who I am, you should know that you can't afford to offend me. Then I'd really like to try. The number of male leads I had offended could already fill a truck. It didn't make a difference if I offended one more. Lei Ting. He reached out and tried to pull Wu Yun's hand back, but Shi Shang held it so tightly that he couldn't move it. Instead, it was Wu Yun who gasped in pain. Mind your own business. Lei Ting's voice was even colder. Wu Yun was tightly trapped in his arms, and he had no intention of showing any mercy to the fairer sex. I usually don't care about other people's business, but... Shi Shang dragged his words. I'm in a bad mood right now. I need to beat someone up to vent my anger. Why don't you beat her up together? Great. Shi Shang was eager to try. Seeing that there was no one at the scene, he immediately decided to do it. Lei Ting thought that Shi Shang was being nosy, or that he knew Wu Yun. Who knew that she would suddenly hit him as well? Was he King madman? When Lei Ting's bodyguards arrived, they saw their president being beaten up by a woman. It was a very strange scene. The bodyguards were silent. They didn't know whether they should go forward or leave, pretending that they didn't see anything. But no matter what choice they made, they could already foresee how bad the outcome would be. "Stop!" the bodyguards shouted in unison. "Catch her, don't let her escape." The bodyguards rushed forward. Shi Shang wasn't stupid. He got up and ran away. It was boring to fight bodyguards. It was a waste of energy. Well, in fact, her physical strength could only support her to tear two people apart. If a group of people came, she would have to use her weapon. Using a weapon meant that someone would die. She was a law-abiding citizen. She couldn't kill people in public. "You mean it's okay as long as it's not in public? Was your conscience eaten by a dog?" "Yes, it was eaten by you." "Ah, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye." Shi Shang sent a message to Hao Baobao, saying that he was going home first and that he could do whatever he wanted. As expected, she received an idiotic roar from Hao Sheng. Then, he reminded her to be careful on the road and so on. He rambled on and on, making Shi Shang sleepy. However, she was good-tempered enough to not hang up the phone. He didn't hang up until someone called him from Hao Baobao's side. Shi Sheng rubbed between his eyebrows. Sigh, he had to get this idiot out of the country as soon as possible. She couldn't do anything with him here. Besides, Hao Baobao didn't want to stay abroad. He stayed in the country because of her. Shi Shang called Hao Baobao's parents and told them that Hao Baobao had been back for a long time. If Hao Baobao's parents showed up, Hao Baobao would definitely be scared and leave the country. At this time, Hao Baobao, who was still drinking with others, didn't know that he had been sold. Chapter 1582. As for why Shi Shang's drawing skills had improved, it was entirely because she had cheated. In this high-tech era, there was no need to draw manually. A simple prop could easily do it. As for why she didn't use it before, it was because she was too lazy to do it. But now, it was about her daughter-in-law. She couldn't be lazy, so she could only give herself a cheat. If the system didn't give her a cheat, she could only do it manually. How frustrating! She had never seen a host as unlucky as her. She met a pretty face system, and a retarded one at that. "The host is attacking me again. I'm going to sue her." "Go ahead and sue her." "I'm scared." Shi Shang opened the discussion group, found Chong Xia, and added her as a friend. 1 minute passed. No response. 5 minutes passed. No response. 1 hour passed. 2 hours passed. Shi Shang added her friend a few times, but the other party didn't respond at all. It was as if she was dead. "At least reject me." Shi Shang changed the verification message to the above. She thought there would be no response, but the next second, she received a system message saying, "The other party has rejected your friend request." Shi Shang. Great. Every time she had to deal with a crazy Feng CI, Shi Shang was extraordinarily patient. In the system's words, she had used up all her patience on Feng CI. Shi Shang continued to add her friend request. The verification message was as follows. "If you reject me, I'll draw 18 fan art and give it to you as a reader. The other party has accepted your friend request." A message quickly popped up. Chong Xia. "I'll discuss the cover with my editor." Su Xn. "No, let's discuss something else." Chong Xia. "I don't think we have anything else to discuss other than the cover." Su Xn. "Do you want to discuss the origin of life?" Chong Xia. "I'm just an author, not a biologist. I can't discuss this with you." Shi Shang. "Why are you pretending to be stupid?" From the conversation above, Wen Gu seemed to be a very polite person. His words didn't seem to have anything sharp. Instead, they were filled with gentleness and politeness. Shi Shang frowned slightly. Before she could figure out what was going on, another message popped up. Chong Xia, please don't draw that kind of picture in the future. Show some respect for my work. Oh, it seemed like Yang Huai had shown her indescribable drawings to him. Changxia, the expression of the person on the cover of the second volume is not right. That volume can't be too flashy. It has to show that he wants to keep a low profile but can't hide his aura. The background is changed to a peach forest. The peach blossoms are in full bloom, and the sky is filled with peach blossoms. Everlasting summer. The third book's cover character's costume needs to be changed. He's already training, so he can't continue wearing the Academy's uniform. The background should be a primeval forest. The ancient sword pointed directly at the magical beasts, and the magical beasts shouldn't submit. Instead, they should revolt. Long summer, promotional picture. Shishang's phone beeped non-stop. Looking at the rows of changes that popped up one after another, Shishang silently crossed them out. What a busybody! Shishang first updated the villain's latest words and then scrolled through the comments. After that, she clicked on the dialogue box. After reading all the comments, Shishang typed slowly. Su Xian, are you sure? Changxia, yes. Su Xian, wait. Shishang closed the dialogue box, opened the drawing software, and began to draw again. When Wengu received the document, it was already the afternoon of the next day. When he clicked on the document, he felt that the emotion called anger, which had not appeared in him for a long time, began to appear again. Not only did she draw L18, but she also added a plot. Judging from the plot, this Su Xian should have read the content carefully. The plot could almost be used as a side quest. Of course, if one didn't look at the pictures and some of the content, she added, Changxia, Su Xian, I'm very sleepy. Let's talk when I wake up. After sending this sentence, Shishang decisively went offline and went to sleep. She was really sleepy. She had stayed up all night last night. Turning off the computer, Shishang fell asleep on the bed. Ding dong, the annoying doorbell kept ringing. Shishang couldn't stand the noise anymore. She directly put a soundproof talisman on herself and went back to sleep. She slept until the moon was high in the sky. She touched her phone and looked at the time. It was already midnight. The nightlife had begun. Shishang groped in the dark and got out of bed. She casually tore off the soundproof talisman on her body. Just as she was about to turn on the light, she suddenly caught a glimpse of a shadow outside. Shishang, was it a ghost? Shishang stared in that direction. The shadow flashed by again. It was so fast that she couldn't see clearly what it was. If it were an ordinary person, they would have screamed in fear. It seemed to be windy outside, and it was quite strong. The sound of the wind made her scalp tingle. Shishang calmly took out a bag of snacks from the side and stood there for a long time. The shadow swayed left and right at the same frequency. There was no spiritual energy in this world. It was definitely not a ghost. If it wasn't a ghost, then it must be a person. After finishing the bag of snacks, Shishang walked to the window and opened it. A gust of cold wind blew in from outside, making the beads hanging on the curtain jingle. Just then, something swayed outside. Shishang saw clearly that it was a person hanging from the rope. A real person. Damn it. Which idiot committed suicide in Ai's house? His limbs hung naturally. He was unconscious. She didn't know if he was dead or unconscious. The wind was very strong. Shishang leaned over and looked up. The rope was hanging from upstairs. The length of the rope was just enough to reach her window. It seemed impossible that he had committed suicide. The rope was not tied around his neck. In the worst-case scenario, this person was here to make trouble for her. However, she had put up a defense charm in her house. He wanted to come in through the window, but failed. The defense charm was not fatal to ordinary people, so he was probably still alive. Shishang found a hook and lured the person over from the strong wind. He checked his arteries. After making sure that he was still alive, he brought him in through the window. Shishang found a gun, a syringe containing unknown drugs, a dagger, and other tools on him. He also found a mobile phone. The mobile phone could only be unlocked by scanning one's face. Shang aimed at the man's face and successfully unlocked it. There were no contacts or messages on the phone. The hot-blooded background music of a game was playing in the room. Together with the strong wind outside, it seemed to be a scene of ghosts crying and wolves howling. The man slowly woke up. He immediately sensed that something was wrong with his situation. He looked down and found that he was tied to a chair. Sitting across from him was a woman. Her slender and fair fingers danced across the keyboard as if she was performing a finger dance. As the background music came to an end, the woman's fingers could only be seen as afterimages, and only the sound of clacking could be heard. Of course, the man knew the woman sitting opposite him. She was his target. But what was the situation now? Why was he here? And in such a strange way. The background music suddenly changed. The woman stopped what she was doing. She closed her laptop and looked at him. Chapter 1583. Want to talk? The woman had a faint smile on her face. She didn't look scared or angry at all. Her eyes were calm, but the smile on her face didn't reach her eyes at all. She sat casually on the sofa, even shaking her legs. No matter how one looked at her, she looked like a gangster. This wasn't how a normal person would react in such a situation. How did he end up here? The man tried hard to recall. The rope outside the window was blown into the air by the strong wind and kept swaying, bringing back the man's previous memories. He wanted to come in through the window, but as soon as he got close to the window, he felt a strange rebounding force. He was sent flying into the air, and because of the inertia, he slammed into the wall and hit his head. When he woke up, he was already here. Shang put down the computer. His fingertips slowly swept across the things on the table and finally landed on the syringe. Who sent you? The man's eyes followed Shang's hand and landed on the syringe. His pupils constricted, and he quickly made up an excuse in his mind. No one sent me. I just want to steal something to make a living. The people around here are all rich. Who knew I would be so unlucky? The man looked angry, as if he didn't want to be caught stealing. Who are you trying to fool? Shang picked up the syringe. Do you need a gun and something like this to steal? What's in it? It's just a knockout drug. The man quickly said, the gun is fake. I just want to scare you. Miss, I have no choice. I have a sister who is seriously ill at home. I have no choice but to go on this road. Please do me a favor and let me go this time. I promise to be a good person in the future and never do such things again. Do you think I'm a fool if I can get you in from outside? Shang looked at the man with a cold smile. He threw away the syringe and pointed the gun at the man. The man's face changed suddenly when he heard the sound of the gun being loaded. Weapons were strictly controlled in China. Even many rich people might not have seen a real gun. Even if this young girl was brave, he was sure that she hadn't seen one before. That was why he wanted to trick her. But her skillful movements made the man realize that he was wrong. Not only had she seen a gun before, but she was also an expert. Today he failed. The information clearly showed that she was a woman who only knew how to draw, so why? If you don't speak properly, I can't guarantee where the bullet will hit you. She aimed the gun between the man's eyebrows and slowly moved down to his chest. The woman smiled and said in a light voice, "You're so thoughtful. You even prepared a silencer." The man's heart raced and his back was drenched in cold sweat. The woman standing in front of him was a beautiful woman, but he felt like he was standing with a beast. I'm really just here to steal. The man braced himself and said, Poochie. The bullet entered his thigh, and the man couldn't help but scream. Blood seeped out from his thigh, dyeing his pants red, and flowed down his pants to the clean floor. The man could not believe that she actually dared to shoot. Such a casual attitude proved that it was definitely not her first time shooting. You still have 2 chances to speak. The woman held the gun and looked at him from the corner of her eyes. Think carefully before you speak. If you say something wrong, you'll lose your life. The man clenched his teeth in pain, but then he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly screamed at the top of his lungs. This was a high-end neighborhood, and there were people patrolling 24/7. When they heard the scream, they would definitely come up to investigate. Poochie, the man was shot in the arm again. Pretentious Shang blew at the gun like in the movies. Open your throat and scream. Don't worry, they won't hear you. The man was speechless. Was he a human or a ghost? He just wanted to earn some money. Why was it so difficult? You still have one last chance. The man swallowed hard. I'll speak. He didn't want to die. No one wanted to die. He panted and struggled in his mind, but the woman in front of him was already impatient and pointed the gun at his heart. The man's mind went blank for a moment, then he blurted out, Mr. Fan asked me to rape you and take photos. Rape me? Then why did you bring a gun? Habit. Why was her focus on the gun? Shi Shang threw the gun back on the table with a clang. Who is Mr. Fan? The man shook his head and gritted his teeth. I don't know. I only know that his name is Mr. Fan. He often asks me to do things for him. We can be considered partners. Oh, looks like you've done a lot of bad things. If I could be a good person, I would want to be a good person too. But people like us don't have a choice. The man didn't know what was on his mind. You have parents and children from rich families. You don't have to worry about food and clothing. How can you understand the helplessness and despair of living at the bottom of society? Shi Shang looked at the man strangely. I didn't say anything. Why are you so agitated? The man was speechless. Have you seen Mr. Fan? The man shook his head. How do you contact him? It's a different number every time. After the task is given to me, the number is no longer valid. I accept the task. Depending on how troublesome it is, he will contact me in 3 to 10 days to ask about the progress. Shi Shang narrowed his eyes. How cunning. How do you pay after the transaction? Cash. Mr. Fan will put the cash in a different place every time. I'll go and get it. I'll give you $1 million to do something for me. The man was speechless. Huh? There was such a thing? Shi Shang narrowed his eyes and smiled. It doesn't matter whose money I earn. If $1 million isn't enough, I can add more. I don't have anything else but money. So what if you're rich? Seeing that she was about to raise her gun again, the man hurriedly asked, What do you want me to do? Being rich was indeed a big deal. Now that his life was in her hands, what could he say? Of course, he would choose to forgive her. A man could bend and stand tall. A petty person had to bend and stand tall as needed. Shi Shang said casually, When that Mr. Fan contacts you, you can tell him that the task has been completed. The man widened his eyes. Even if I say that, he won't believe me if I don't get what he wants. Shi Shang smiled. Your task is just to make a phone call. After that, it's none of your business. Do you understand? The man was speechless. Could he find out who Mr. Fan was just by making a phone call? But a phone call was worth $1 million. This money was much easier to earn than Mr. Fan. The man made a comparison and immediately agreed. Shi Shang fiddled with the man's cell phone for a while. Then, he put away everything on the table except for the cell phone. Then, he carried his laptop and slowly returned to his room. Hey, hi. The man struggled. Let go of me first. It's better to tie a stranger up in your house, Shi Shang said without turning his head. The man was speechless. Asterisk, have you seen this before? Ha 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 ha. Hashtag today, I'm looking for votes from all over the world. Hashtag monthly votes. Monthly votes, monthly votes. Chapter 1584. Shi Shang returned to the bedroom and opened the chat app. Beep beep beep. Number 1 marksman. Su Xiaoxin, what are you doing so late at night? Go to sleep? How Baobao's message had just been sent, right before she went online. Su Xin, cultivation. Number 1 marksman. Cultivation my ass. go to sleep. Su Xian, I just got up, why sleep? Shi Shang ignored Hao Baobao after replying, but he was too noisy, so Shi Shang blacklisted him again. After blacklisting him, she wisely turned off her phone, or else Hao Baobao would call her from now until dawn. She didn't want to be bombarded. Her chat history with Wengu was still at the point where she went to sleep. After she finished speaking, he didn't say a word. Hiske, Su Xian, Guru, come cultivate. Wengu didn't reply. She didn't know if he was online or typing. Shi Shang played a game out of boredom, but he still didn't reply when she came back. It wasn't until she defeated several bosses that Wengu replied with one word. Chong Xia. Sleep early and wake up early. Shi Shang raised her eyebrows. He knew to sleep early and wake up early. Su Xian, Guru, are you using American time? Chong Xia, if you want to talk about the cover, please find someone else. Su Xian, others are boring, I like you, Guru. Chong Xia, it wasn't like she hadn't met crazy fans before. Wengu knew that this was also a crazy fan, a powerful fan with some skills. Su Xian, Guru, why aren't you sleeping? Chong Xia, writing. Su Xian, is it better to write at night? She could write at any time, there was no such thing as writing at night was better. The main thing was that if she couldn't write, she would start a new book. Chong Xia, I'm busy during the day. Su Xian, busy? What are you busy with? Chong Xia, private matters. Shi Shang realized that other than the cover issue, this person could talk to her in long sentences, but for other questions, he was usually concise. Shi Shang scratched her chin and replied after a while. Su Xian, Guru, let's talk about the origin of life. Chongxia, if you have the time, why don't you change the map? Su Xian, we can discuss it before we change it. I can change it to whatever you want. Isn't that a good deal? Chongxia, Su Xian, Guru, don't be so otherworldly. As a mortal, you should be more down to earth, right? Isn't this human nature? Su Xian, Guru? Su Xian. Guru. After those 6 dots, Wengu didn't pay attention to Shi Shang anymore, but he didn't go offline either. No one knew what he was doing. When Shi Shang was bored, he searched for his pen name on the internet. However, there were only works, no photos, and no information about his life. History of the Ages was his first fantasy novel. In the past, he had only written short stories. Yep, more literary novels, and he was a best-selling author. For such an author to suddenly write a Xuanhuan novel and sell it so well, it was simply poisonous. In the next few days, Wengu seemed to have disappeared. It was Yang Huai who told her about the changes in the map several times. Su Xian, can I come back if I change Wengu? Yang Huai. Where did you find out his real name? Su Xian, would you believe me if I told you that I hacked your backer? Yang Huai, Teacher Su Xian, please don't cause trouble. Please change the map properly. Otherwise, we can't use it and can only terminate the contract. Yang Huai used a businesslike tone. This circle wasn't that big. Different people would know each other before and then know some secrets. This wasn't a big deal. Yang Huai only thought that Shi Sheng heard it from someone else. Su Xian, why doesn't anyone believe the truth? Let Wengu tell me and I'll change it. Yang Huai, let me die. JPG, at this moment, Yang Huai wanted to die. She had shown the new artist to him, but his drawing wasn't as good as this one. However, this person was so difficult to deal with. Changing the map was like asking for her life. It wasn't asking for her life. Previously, she was too lazy to change it. She didn't lack the money. It was that idiot Hao Baobao who made the decision. As for now, of course, it was all for her wife. No matter how big the world was, nothing was more important than her wife. Yang Huai. He has something to do and won't be online for the time being. Teacher Su Xian, you can change it first. When he comes online, you can tell him. Su Xian, what's the matter? Yang Huai, private matter. Su Xian, then I'll wait for him to come online. It's okay. You can use another artist. I don't mind. When the time comes, I'll compensate you for the breach of contract. You won't lose out. Yang Huai, you don't mind, but we do. No matter what Yang Huai said, Shi Shang ignored him. In the end, he could only give up on the idea and communicate with the other artist. This artist's problem was worse than Shi Shang's because of Wan Gu. Now, he had changed it to the point that he had nothing to live for. He was probably going to quit. As an editor, Yang Huai had to appease the artist. Otherwise, if both sides couldn't produce the map, who would he cry to? He was also very desperate to meet an author who found fault with everything. Shi Shang put down his computer and looked at the person who looked like he had nothing to live for. How long are you going to tie me up for? The man saw that Shi Shang finally looked at him, so he immediately spoke up. His voice was a little hoarse. Other than eating, he was tied up all the time. Even when he went to the toilet, he was tied up. Did they know how difficult it had been for him? I'll tie you up until Mr. Fan contacts me. Why am I so unlucky? The man wailed. He had been in the industry for so many years and had never failed. Who knew that he would fall into the hands of a woman? If word got out, people would laugh their heads off. He might as well die. No, he couldn't die. Chapter 1585. How could it not be troublesome when he was already in trouble? The information you gave me is wrong. She has learned Kung Fu before. She's not as weak as you said. I almost died in her hands. I won't give you anything if you don't pay more. Mr. Fan, I'm not trying to pick a fight with you. We've worked together so many times. You know what kind of person I am. Mr. Fan, how much? The man thought for a while and said, double it. Mr. Fan seemed to be thinking about it too. After a while, he nodded. Okay. Beep, beep, beep. Mr. Fan hung up. The man's palms were covered in cold sweat. He wiped them on his pants and looked at the woman on the sofa. Is this okay? Shi Shang looked at the location on the computer and glanced at him. It's okay. Can I leave now? Yes. Shi Shang threw a card to him. The password is the 6 digits in the middle of the card. The man caught the card and his expression changed. Which is the password? Try it yourself. Shi Shang waved his hand. The man gritted his teeth and left quickly. However, when he walked out of the neighborhood, he saw the policeman waiting for him. F***CK. The man looked at the neighborhood behind him. He could vaguely see the woman standing on the balcony. She was waving at him arrogantly. She did keep her promise and let him go. She even gave him 1,000,000 yuan. However, she didn't say that she wouldn't call the police. He was here to mess with her. How could she let him go? The man might have confessed to Shi Shang out of revenge. However, instead of dragging him down, he added a robbery charge to himself. The card he had stolen was the card. The man. It was all fake. Shi Shang found the street that was located. Not far ahead was a famous business district. There were many big companies and the people who came and went were all elites of society. Shi Shang walked along the street. The moving green dots on his phone gradually overlapped with the red dots. This was an alley. It was very narrow and ran through 2 buildings. Shi Shang looked around and found a surveillance camera that could capture this place. Shi Shang found a cafe nearby and sat down. He hacked into the surveillance camera and copied the footage from yesterday. The surveillance footage showed a man in a black trench coat stopping at a spot in the alley for a while. However, he was wearing a hat and his collar was up, so his appearance could not be seen. Shi Shang could only wait for him to leave and then search through the surveillance cameras one by one. Fortunately, there were surveillance cameras everywhere on this street. The man probably didn't expect that someone would investigate like this. After walking a distance away, he showed his face. Shi Shang stared at the unfamiliar face. Well, maybe not. Shi Shang looked out of the window and saw the person who had been in the surveillance room come in from outside. He went straight to the counter and asked for a cup of coffee and a drink. Shi Shang closed the laptop and put it into the space when he was in a blind spot. Then he followed the man and left. The man seemed to be in a hurry as he walked quickly towards a building. Shi Shang's eyes darkened as he looked at the logo of the building. Great job, the male lead. Shi Shang waited outside the building. Not long after, Lei Ting came out with Dark Cloud in his arms. Dark Cloud's face was buried in the man's chest. Her expression could not be seen, but it seemed like she was scared out of her wits. A car stopped in front of them. Lei Ting stuffed Dark Cloud into the passenger seat. Then he asked the driver to get out of the car and drove away. Shi Shang did not follow them. Instead, he waited for Mr. Fan. Mr. Fan got off work with the other employees and drove home by himself. Shi Shang followed him all the way. When he went upstairs, he pushed him into the stairwell. Young man, it's monkey dung. Shi Shang grabbed Mr. Fan's collar, his voice echoing in the narrow and dim stairwell. Mr. Fan did not react. He stared at the person in front of him with wide eyes. Why was Su Xian here? It shouldn't be. But the person in front of him was Su Xian. Shi Shang's fingers were around Mr. Fan's neck. His voice was flat. Did that idiot Lei Ting order you to do this? The stairwell was already cold. As soon as Shi Shang spoke, Mr. Fan felt even colder. It was as if there was a poisonous snake on his back, ready to kill him. Who are you? Mr. Fan forced himself to be calm and pretended that he did not know anything. What did President Lei do to you? I'm your ancestor. Shi Shang kicked the man in the stomach. Mr. Fan groaned. Shi Shang asked again, did Lei Ting order you to do this? I don't know what you're talking about. If you want to harm President Lei, I won't let you succeed. Mr. Fan gritted his teeth. Were you sent by Zhongli? I'm telling you, don't even think about using such underhanded means to win the project. What's the point of playing dumb? Shi Shang lifted Mr. Fan up and took his phone from his pocket. He forced him to unlock it and found the person who marked Lei Ting. He video called him. Mr. Fan was speechless. Lei Ting did not pick up the first time. Shi Shang patiently called a second time, but still did not pick up. This time, Shi Shang didn't have that much patience. She typed out a series of messages and sent them over. If you don't pick up, you won't be able to see your dear Mr. Fan. Su Xian. After sending the text message, Shi Shang waited for a while and dialed again. The call was quickly connected. Lei Ting was still in the car. The car was parked somewhere. It was dark, and only the dim light came from the inside of the car. Lei Ting was in a state of rage. His hand was outside the screen, as if he was grabbing something. President Lei, you're very busy. Shi Shang pointed the screen at Mr. Fan. Come, let's see if you're Mr. Fan is missing an arm or a leg. Su Xian. Lei Ting gritted his teeth. What do you want? Shi Shang turned the screen back and asked with a smile, President Lei, it's not what I want. What do you want? You won't have a good ending if you go against me. Su Xian, think carefully. The veins on Lei Ting's forehead bulged. I'm so scared. Shi Shang patted his chest exaggeratedly. But now you have to make a choice. Do you want Mr. Fan dead or dead? Shipping is included in the entire city. Lei Ting, Mr. Fan. What's the difference between dead and dead? Shipping is included in the entire city? Does she think she's a treasure? How can a young lady say such words with such an expression? Lei Ting's side was fine. He couldn't feel the terrifying feeling through the screen. However, Mr. Fan could clearly feel a poisonous snake coiling around his body. Shi Shang asked Mr. Fan to move over. She sat down as well. President Lei, I won't deny it. I hit you first, so now you're taking revenge. There's nothing wrong with what you did. However, It's a pity that you didn't succeed. So we'll have to rely on our own abilities. Lei Ting's hand moved, and the screen shook. Then, the video changed to the other side. There was a strange sound coming from the other side. President Lei, please be serious. Can't you do this later? Do you believe that I'll call you and sue you for rape? Shi Shang suddenly exploded. She was talking to him, and he was still in the mood to do such an indescribable thing. Mr. Fan. F*CK, this woman wants to go to heaven. Chapter 1586. The screen went dark and only returned to normal after a while. Lei Ting tugged at his collar and spat out words that were as cold as ice. Su Exin, it's easy for me to make you wish you were dead. What a coincidence. It's also easy for me to make you die. Why don't we start with your Mr. Fan? Shi Shang raised her eyebrows and chuckled. Her brows were filled with arrogance. All right, I didn't mean anything by calling you. I just wanted to let you know who did it. That's all. Shi Shang turned off the screen. Lei Ting's voice disappeared in the air and the stairwell fell into dead silence. Mr. Fan swallowed with difficulty. Su Xn, murder is illegal. If you kill me, you'll pay for it with your life. Who said I'm going to kill you? Shi Shang looked at Mr. Fan with amusement. Mr. Fan, just now, you said you wanted him dead or breathless. Weren't you trying to kill him? Don't worry, I'm a law-abiding person. I won't do such a crazy thing like you guys. Mr. Fan. I have a feeling you'll do something even crazier. Lei Ting sent someone to look for Mr. Fan, but there was no one at home, no one at the company, and no trace of Su Xian. Just as Lei Ting was feeling frustrated, he received a package from the company. It was a very big package. The courier said it was valuable and asked someone to open it on the spot for inspection. The receptionist didn't dare to open the CEO's things. They could only call up and ask Lei Ting to bring people down. Everyone looked at each other. What was in such a big box? Could it be a terrorist attack? Open it. Lei Ting ordered. Everyone went forward and opened the box together. The seal on the box was opened and the scene inside was revealed. It was a cross with a person tied to it. The person was naked and only had a pair of underwear on his lower body. There were a few words written on his body in red paint. Free shipping in the city, honest to all. Everyone, Assistant Fan. Someone recognized the person on the cross and shouted in surprise. Mr. Fan was Lei Ting's personal assistant. Everyone in the company knew him. But now, the CEO's favorite person had appeared in such a way. Who was so bold? Were they still sleeping? Quick, put Assistant Fan down. Only then did everyone come back to their senses and put her down in a flurry. Assistant Fan also slowly woke up at this moment. After yesterday, he had been in a coma. When he woke up, he found himself under the gaze of the company's employees. He turned his head with difficulty and caught a glimpse of Lei Ting standing not far away. Assistant Fan's expression changed. President. Lei Ting's face was dark, and the anger in his heart was unbearable. Su Xian really dared. Assistant Fan was helped upstairs. Of course, this matter naturally became a hot topic in the company. Why was Assistant Fan sent back in this way? Did Assistant Fan offend someone, or did she provoke their CEO? Most people believed that this was a provocation to their CEO. If Assistant Fan had offended someone, she wouldn't have been sent to the company to be taught a lesson. Of course, there were also people who felt that this was to embarrass Assistant Fan. After all, there were so many people in the company. If they saw him like this, they would lose all their face. Just as everyone was guessing, an ambulance suddenly appeared outside. Doctors and nurses rushed upstairs like a gust of wind. Everyone, so what? The doctors and nurses hurriedly carried a person down on a stretcher. This person was none other than their CEO Lei. What's going on? Oh my God, there's so much blood. What happened? Why is the CEO bleeding so much? Ah, Lei Ting was lying on the stretcher. He hadn't completely lost consciousness. He heard the screams of the employees. He turned his head and suddenly saw Shi Shang, who was standing not far away from the ambulance. His pupils suddenly widened. Shi Shang calmly waved at him, as if he was greeting an old friend. Lei Ting didn't have time to recognize the expression on his face. He was quickly sent to the ambulance, and she was separated from his sight. When Assistant Fan was brought up just now, he didn't have time to ask what had happened. Assistant Fan suddenly started to attack him. In order not to let more people know, there were only the two of them at the scene. Assistant Fan's desperate attacks made him a little overwhelmed. While fighting with Assistant Fan, he was stabbed in the abdomen by Assistant Fan with a fruit knife. After that, it seemed that someone had rushed in and subdued Assistant Fan. Lei Ting's consciousness gradually disappeared, and he fell into darkness. Shi Shang watched the ambulance leave and touched his chin, thinking, "The natives of this world are indeed much more harmful to the male and female leads. What strange joke did the host learn? It's just a little troublesome." Shi Shang shook his head. This time, Assistant Fan happened to be involved. If Assistant Fan hadn't been involved, she would have been an innocent person. Therefore, this method was only suitable for the right time. Lei Ting's injuries were a little serious. Assistant Fan was arrested for intentional injury. With Lei Ting's downfall, not only did his shares fall, but he also gave his competitors a chance. It was said that Lei Ting's company lost hundreds of millions. Shi Shang looked at the news and wondered when he should go to the hospital to give him another stab. Even if he couldn't kill him, he should at least make him stay in the hospital for a while. If he couldn't kill her, he could only wait for her to kill him. Shi Shang closed the news and went to Weibo. As soon as he refreshed the page, he saw that the main page was almost flooded with "The Devil General." Shi Shang. Damn, what's going on? Shi Shang clicked on the most forwarded Weibo post and saw that it was an adaptation announcement. The Devil General was going to be adapted into an anime. The Devil General had mysteriously disappeared from the internet before, and it was already a hot topic. Now that the news of an anime adaptation had suddenly appeared, the Devil General became a hot topic. It was really amazing. The female lead, Dark Cloud, was also very brave. Tao Su, Little Xian, have you seen Weibo? Su Xian, yes. Tao Su, that. Tao Su wanted to say something but stopped. After a while, she sent a message. Tao Su, the Devil General is an important project that our company will follow up on. Little Xian, I know it's hard for you to accept, but don't think too much about it. Plagiarism will always be plagiarism. You have to pull yourself together and make a better work than this. Tao Su's message actually revealed a lot of information to Shi Shang. Why did Ku Man Company want to promote the Devil General? And it was an important project. Damn, I bet on Buttface. It's Mr. Plot again. Is it really okay to force it? Su Xin, I'm fine. Tao Su, are you back? I'll go and see you. Tao Su hadn't forgotten about this. Su Xian, no. Tao Su, okay then. I'll keep an eye out for you. Tao Su was obviously disappointed. Shi Shang didn't pay much attention to it. He closed the chat and continued to poke Master Wengu, who had been lying dead for hundreds of years. However, Master Wengu decided to stay dead. No matter how much Shi Shang poked him, there was no response. Chapter 1587. Since he couldn't revive God Wengu, Shi Shang could only think about the Devil General. If the comic was going to be adapted into a Devil General, then she would buy the comic. The original owner said that she wanted to draw an empire. With her current pace of drawing a normal comic, this seemed to be the most feasible method. Host, can you follow a normal plot? You want to buy other people's company as soon as you go up? Do you have money? Money is easy to earn. Shi Shang typed on the keyboard. But to buy the comic, you have to do some research. She definitely didn't have enough money now. Also, The comic wasn't cabbage that could be bought easily. Damn, you're really planning to buy it. Do you think I'm joking? With my drawing skills, do you think I can draw an empire with my own ability? You really know your place. The host muttered. You have to know your own weaknesses first. It's not scary to have a weakness, but you can't be ignorant of it and let the enemy know your weakness first. Shi Sheng paused and his lips curled up. Sometimes, a weakness can be a weapon. Shi Sheng's Poisonous Chicken Soup X1. Shi Sheng was collecting information on the comic while updating villains. She wasn't slow at updating and she drew very quickly. She almost kept one update every 3 days. When she was in a good mood, she would update even more. With her fame, many people contacted her and asked if she was willing to publish a single comic or sign a contract. But Shi Sheng wasn't interested in these people. Su Xian, I remember that your company also publishes comics, right? Yang Huai, teacher, why are you asking this? Yang Huai was very nervous. There were 2 people he was most afraid of dealing with. One was the picky god Wen Gu, and the other was Su Xian, who drew 18 comics. These 2 people were simply here to torture him. Su Xian, I'll sign the villains I've updated. Yang Huai, was a pie falling from the sky? Su Xian was so famous. Although their company wasn't bad, it was still lacking compared to the old companies she worked with before. Also, he had seen the villains before. Even if they didn't sign a contract or promote it, they were still very popular. Their editorial department was filled with ghost emojis of the villains. Yang Huai, I'll ask the higher-ups. Yang Huai didn't dare to make the decision. The main reason was that comics weren't their main business, and their results were average. Moreover, this was Su Xian. Who knew what conditions would be required to sign her? Before Yang Huai could finish reporting, the young master, Feng Ruishuan, had already made the decision to sign it. She had to sign it even if she had to offer a sky-high price. Yang Huai. Was the young master crazy as well? Yang Huai. Teacher Su Xian, the club has agreed. You're in this city too, right? If you have time, come to the club and we can talk about the contract face to face. Su Xian, I'm not going. Other editors had several authors under them, but he was the only one. He had to take care of Wan Gu alone, and it was even more tiring than the others. For such a small matter, he could tell you that the sky was falling and the world was coming to an end. If he hadn't suddenly gone to write web novels last year, he would probably have said goodbye to the world by now. Su Xian, he's handsome. His wife liked everything about him. Yang Huai, Teacher Su Xian, I think you might have some misunderstanding about Teacher Wen Gu. You can't just look at the surface. Teacher Su Xian, you must think carefully. Su Xian, are you going to give it to me or not? Yang Huai, talking to a cow. Yang Huai didn't know if it was because Shi Sheng had signed the villain to them, or because this was his boss friend's friend who needed special care, but he gave Shi Sheng his phone number. Yang Huai, this is his emergency number. It's not him, but you can definitely find him. Yang Huai, Teacher Su Xian, cherish your life. Su Xian, is he that scary? Previously, when they were chatting, he was just a little picky, and it was all about the works. Everything else was normal, and he spoke quite gently. I wonder who blocked him directly before. Why is he so normal now? The system snorted. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, do you know that? Hee, I knew that there are retards in the host's eyes. Like you. Retard host. The system doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Shi Sheng snorted disdainfully. If you don't want to talk, then don't talk. Who cares? Anyway, in the end, you couldn't hold it in and ran out to talk to I. But Face was fuming with anger and decisively went offline. He must hold it in and not go online. Not going online. Important things must be said 3 times. Yang Huai, bear. JPG. In the end, Yang Huai sent a picture. Shi Sheng raised his eyebrows. Why was he looking forward to seeing what was wrong with Feng Ci this time? Chapter 1588. The Third People's Hospital. Shi Sheng raised her head to look at the words lit up with red light, her emotions a bit complicated. She had located the number. It was inside the hospital. It was the middle of the night and there was no one in sight at the entrance of the hospital. The night breeze blew and it felt eerie. Shi Sheng crossed his arms and walked inside. Lei Ting seemed to be in this hospital too. Teske. She would kill the male lead while she was at it. The hospital was very big. Shi Sheng walked for a long time before arriving at the inpatient department. At this time, the entire inpatient department was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Other than the family members accompanying the patient, no one else was allowed to enter or leave at night. Shi Sheng sneaked in through the lobby and went all the way to the 20th floor. When the elevator door opened, a young girl in a pink nurse uniform was stunned. "You?" Shi Sheng walked out calmly. "I was hungry, so I went out for supper." The young girl blinked and didn't know if she believed him or not. Pretentious Shi Sheng pretended to be familiar with the place and walked straight ahead. Even if it was fake, he had to pretend that it was real. "Hey, wait." The young girl caught up with him. Shi Sheng took a deep breath and turned around with a smile. "Is there anything else?" "Which ward are you in?" the young girl asked. Shi Sheng glanced at the room not far from him and smiled. 2016. 2016. The young nurse frowned. "That's not right. Isn't the family member in 2016 an old lady?" Shi Sheng was speechless. "How did you have such a good memory?" "Miss, I'm actually here to see my boyfriend." Shi Sheng immediately changed tactics and started to talk nonsense. "My family doesn't allow me to be with my boyfriend. They don't even allow me to visit him when he's in the hospital. I finally snuck out of my house to see him. Don't worry, I won't disturb anyone else." "Ah." The young nurse seemed to be shocked by the story and looked sympathetic. "But it's already past visiting hours." Although the young nurse looked sympathetic, she still didn't want to let Shi Sheng in. "Why don't you wait downstairs and come up when visiting hours are over?" Shi Sheng continued to bluff. "I'm afraid that my family will come looking for him. If they do, I won't be able to see him." In the end, he forcefully turned the story into a novel, torturing the young nurse so much that her tears fell down. The nurse wiped her tears and said, "I'm so touched. You must love your boyfriend very much to be able to do so much for him. What's your boyfriend's name? I'll take you there quietly." Shi Sheng heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally managed to get over it. Although she could knock the nurse out and then look for her, she couldn't do it to such a cute girl. "Wengu." Shi Sheng saw that the nurse was stunned. After a while, he asked, "Who are you talking about?" "Wengu." The nurse had a strange expression on her face. In the next second she said firmly, "You'd better go back. Come back in the morning." Shi Sheng was speechless. Didn't she promise to help him? Was all the touching words earlier fake? This godly turn of events caught me off guard. The nurse refused to let Shi Sheng in no matter what. In the end, she even attracted the attention of the other people in the on-call room. When they heard that she was here to look for Wengu, their expressions were very interesting. Shi Sheng was speechless. "Just what are you doing, Wengu Dashan? Why are these people so speechless and never wanting to see that Wengu again after hearing your name?" Shi Sheng got out of the elevator, climbed up the stairs, and put on an invisibility charm. The nurse and another nurse were chatting in the on-call room. "Why is such a good-looking guy so troublesome? I heard that Ruru, who was on the day shift, cried because of him. She just trembled during the injection, and he made it seem like Ruru wanted to kill him." "That's nothing." When the doctor was doing his rounds, he didn't knock on the door first. He made the doctor angry. Sure enough, the more good-looking he is, the weirder his temper is. How can those good-looking and gentle people exist? TV shows have ruined my life. Is that girl really his girlfriend? I don't know. But if she is, I think that girl's parents did the right thing by not letting them be together, said the nurse who was fooled by Shi Shang. Luckily you stopped her. If she wasn't his girlfriend, we wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. The nurse next to her patted her chest in fear. Shi Shang stood outside and listened for a while. It seemed that good looks weren't everything. Master Wengu was so awesome. He had offended so many young ladies. Shi Shang left the on-call room and walked down the corridor to find a ward. 2028, this should be the place. The light in the ward was not on. Shi Shang tried to turn the doorknob. The lock clicked. He pushed it gently and the door opened easily. The faint light outside the window illuminated the room. He could vaguely see the inside of the room. There was only one bed in the whole room. Except for the things on the wall that couldn't be removed, the necessary equipment for a hospital ward was missing. Empty. Dang, if it weren't for the bed, it would be like a haunted hospital. Shi Shang's eyes fell on the bed. A figure was lying on it with the quilt covering his chest. His breathing was shallow and steady. Shi Shang's heart raced. He walked to the bedside and leaned over to look at him. His face was normal. He wasn't pale because of illness. His messy hair covered his eyes and eyebrows. Shi Shang's hands itched to brush away those strands of hair. At this moment, his closed eyes suddenly opened. He quickly reached out to Shi Shang. Shi Shang was startled. He nimbly dodged to the side. He wondered if Wengu could see him. But when he met Wengu's confused eyes, Shi Shang knew that Wengu couldn't see him. Wengu found it strange that he couldn't see anything. He reached out to turn on the light and scanned the room. There was no one. He frowned. He lifted the quilt and got out of bed. He walked around the room and finally stopped on the other side of the bed. Shi Shang was standing on the other side. They stood facing each other. Shi Shang didn't tear off his invisibility talisman because he didn't want to scare Wengu. He looked around the other side, still confused. After a long time, he bent down and took out his phone from under the pillow. Uncle Rong, I want to change rooms. Shi Shang. Why was he so paranoid? Soon, a slightly older man came in. Young man, what's wrong? I feel that there's something in the room. Uncle Rong looked around. The room was empty. Even if there was something, it wouldn't be able to hide it. Was the young master acting up again? Uncle Rong thought about his young master's illness. In the end, he didn't say anything. He got up and went to find someone to change rooms. The nurses on duty in the hospital wouldn't be happy to change rooms in the middle of the night. It was strange enough to empty a room. Wasn't he looking for trouble? Even if he was handsome and rich, he couldn't do this. Uncle Rong talked for a long time outside. Finally, he changed rooms. Shi Shang watched him toss and turn. She had mixed feelings. This man. He felt so insecure. #hashtag begging for peanut-flavored votes today. #vote. Vote, vote. Vote, vote, vote. Today's the college entrance examination. Come on, little cuties. You can do it. Chapter 1589. After moving to a new ward, Wengu was very anxious in the room. He paced back and forth several times. Uncle Rong stood by the door and watched him. He wanted to persuade him several times, but in the end, he held himself back. Young master, it's getting late. You should rest early. Uncle Rong couldn't stand it anymore and reminded him. Wengu stopped in his tracks and said in a slightly hoarse voice, You should go and rest first. Uncle Rong knew his young master's temper. He wouldn't listen to his advice, so he resigned himself to fate and left the room. Wengu paced around the room for a while, as if checking if there was anything in the room. After repeating this several times, he sat back on the bed and stared blankly at the ward. Because of the tight schedule, the room was full, which made him very uneasy. In the end, Wengu took out the laptop that Uncle Rong had put aside and logged into the chat app. Shi Shang took out her phone and saw that he was online. Su Exin. Good morning, Almighty. They were just opposite each other, but they had to chat in such a way. She felt helpless. Shi Sheng saw Wen Gu frown. The light above his head fell on his eyelashes, adding a hazy and dreamy feeling. He seemed to be sitting in a mirror, making it difficult for people to see him clearly. The sound of typing on the keyboard was crisp and pleasant. His fingers danced on the keyboard. Changxia, it's getting late. Su Xian, yes, why aren't you sleeping? Shi Sheng subconsciously softened her tone. She leaned against the wall and looked at the person beside her. The man who was looking down at the computer suddenly raised his head and looked in her direction. For a moment, Shi Sheng almost thought that their eyes met. But soon, Wen Gu looked away and seemed a little anxious. His grip on the computer tightened. Shi Sheng decisively distanced herself from him and tried not to look at him. Wen Gu waited for a while. Perhaps the uneasy feeling that made him feel disappeared, so he sighed slightly. Changxia, I can't sleep. Su Xian, what's wrong? Shi Sheng watched as he typed a lot of words, but in the end, he deleted them. There were only 2 words left. Changxia, nothing. Su Xian, I'm right beside you. Do you believe me? When he sent this, Wen Gu's expression suddenly changed. He raised his head and quickly looked around. In the end, he seemed to remember something and lowered his head to type. Changxia, this joke isn't funny. Have you finished editing the image? Su Xian, I'm not joking. I'll be by your side. Changxia, even I haven't seen her before and she said such words. Are all little girls nowadays like this? Wen Gu muttered. He wanted to put down his notebook, but at this moment, the beeping sound rang out again. Su Xian, I saw you at the school's anniversary celebration. I liked you. Wen Gu showed that kind of blank expression again. The screen light reflected on his face, as if it was covered with a layer of strange halo, making people unable to move their eyes away. Changxia, what is like? Su Xian, I just want to be with you. Changxia, no one wants to be with me. After Wen Chu sent this sentence, he suddenly closed the notebook as if to vent his anger, threw it on the cabinet next to him, and shrank into the quilt. Shi Sheng, unlocking a new problem. Shi Sheng didn't disturb him. When Uncle Rong came in to see him at dawn, she quietly left the ward. She went back to change her clothes and reappeared outside the hospital. As soon as she got out of the taxi, she saw a dark cloud running out from the direction of the hospital, heading straight for her. Lei Ting followed behind and caught up with her in no time. Let go of me, you lunatic. Dark Cloud struggled. Her eyes were still red. Something unpleasant must have happened earlier. Go back with me. Lei Ting restrained Dark Cloud, his voice containing anger. No, I don't want to go back with you. Let go of me, you pervert. Lei Ting, you're a lunatic. Let go of me. Dark Cloud struggled fiercely. People coming and going stopped to watch. Lei Ting frowned and tried to drag Dark Cloud towards the parking lot. Dark Cloud took the opportunity to bite his hand. Lei Ting was in pain and was forced to let go of her. Dark Cloud ran out of the crowd and tripped over a person next to her. The person had a suitcase next to him, and the suitcase hit another person. In order to avoid the suitcase, the person had to move aside. Shi Sheng was standing behind him. His move almost forced Shi Sheng to the road. Damn! The person cursed. Obviously, he didn't expect something like this to happen. Life was full of drama. As soon as this thought flashed through Shi Sheng's mind, he suddenly felt something fall on his head. The body's self-reaction to danger was faster than the brain. The crowd screamed and scattered. Although Shi Sheng retreated quickly, he was still shaken by the impact of the crowd. She didn't know when Wu Yun and Lei Ting had arrived by her side. Wu Yun was knocked around by someone. Just as he was about to fall, Lei Ting immediately reached out and pulled her back into his arms. His action directly affected Shi Sheng, who was knocked into the middle of the road. Damn! Shi Sheng cursed and grabbed Lei Ting's clothes without hesitation. The moment she was pulled by inertia, Lei Ting also fell towards him. The car in front of them roared and hit them directly. Boom, squeak, the thing hit the ground and the whole ground trembled. Dust flew everywhere. The panic and screams of the crowd drowned out the sound of the emergency brakes. The driver stared at the person who was hit in the distance with a pale face and blinked hard. He saw 2 people just now. Why was there only one left? Just as the driver was confused, the black figure suddenly slid down from the windshield and landed on the ground in a handsome posture, as if performing acrobatics. The girl patted her clothes and put her hands in her trouser pockets. She looked at the driver rudely. The driver was speechless. What the hell? When did she get up there? Shishang looked at Lei Ting indifferently. If she hadn't reacted fast enough, she would have been the one who was hit. The thing that fell down was a decoration shelf used for renovation upstairs. No one knew why it suddenly fell off. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but many people were frightened. Although no one was hurt, someone was in a car accident because of this. This person was none other than President Lei of Lei's group. The news of Lei Ting's hospitalization had not yet died down, and now there was another accident. Many people guessed that Lei Ting had offended someone. Otherwise, why would there be one accident after another? Shishang saw that Lei Ting was sent to the hospital again, but he didn't feel guilty at all. He was the one who hit her first, so she dragged him down with her. It was fair. She couldn't be the only one who suffered. Everyone should suffer together. Dark Cloud stood in the crowd with her arms crossed in front of her chest. Her lips were pale and her eyes were unfocused as she followed Lei Ting, who was almost pushed to the entrance of the hospital. She bit her lip and hesitated for a moment. In the end, she still chased after him. Shishang was speechless. Why didn't she run now? Why did she chase after him? Damn. Chapter 1590. The female leads in sadomasochistic novels had many chances to run away, but as long as something happened to the male lead, the female lead's heart would soften. Then when the male lead woke up, it would be another round of abuse. Some female leads in sadomasochistic novels would choose to forgive the male lead no matter what he did. It was all a trap. Didn't you want to lock Feng Ci up before? What's the difference between you and those male leads? Where's your shame? The system couldn't help but complain. This host was simply a strengthened version of the sickly male lead. She actually had the nerve to complain. I only wanted to lock him up. Did I torture him? The male lead would force himself on her without saying a word. It was both mentally and physically torturous. When did she really force herself on Feng Ci when he was very resistant? No, she patiently coaxed him, wishing she could present the whole world to him. I don't think so. And I didn't lock him up in the end. She did have that thought. She didn't deny it. But she had never thought of torturing him. You didn't think of torturing him. Your idea was much scarier than torturing him. She wanted to drag him down with her. He was willing. The system was speechless. But the female lead was also willing. What can you do about it? If sadomasochistic novels didn't develop like this, how could they develop? Otherwise, how could they be called sadomasochistic novels? Idiot host. I'm just giving you a guide. I didn't say it was impossible. Shishang rolled her eyes. How the female lead chose was none of her business. She was only responsible for breaking the ship. Oh crazy. Shishang waited for the crowd to disperse before walking into the hospital. She went up to the 20th floor with ease. The young lady on duty yesterday wasn't there. Shishang found the room from last night. She turned the corner and saw Uncle Rong and a doctor standing at the door. Doctor, how's our young master? Uncle Rong's face was full of worry. He can't be too emotional. You know that people like him can easily develop extreme emotions once their emotions are too unstable, causing an irreversible tragedy. You should watch him a little more. There shouldn't be any major problems. There's no cure for this illness in China or abroad. You can only rely on your family and the patient himself. Okay, I'll take care of young master. Shi Shang ran back to the elevator. There were labels indicating the types of patients on this floor. Neurology. The corners of Shi Shang's mouth twitched as he read the words. Damn it, this guy is really crazy. When Shi Shang returned, the doctor had already left. Uncle Rong stood outside the ward with a solemn and regretful expression. Hello. Uncle Rong's expression became serious. He looked up at the girl who spoke and asked politely, Miss, what can I do for you? I'm Senior Wen's Junior. Can I go in and see him? Junior. Uncle Rong looked surprised. You're also from South Capital University? Yes. I'm sorry, Mississippi. It's not suitable for young master to receive guests. Uncle Rong was in a difficult position. Thank you for your kindness. I'll tell the young master. Uncle Rong refused to let Shi Shang in no matter what. Shi Shang had to take out his phone to see if Wengu was online. Fortunately, Wengu was online. Su Xin, Guru, I'm outside your ward. Ask your men to let me in. Wengu. Su Xin, I'll bring the pictures to you personally. I'll change whatever you want. Wengu. A figure approached from the other side of the door. The door opened with a click, revealing Wengu's tall figure. His eyes fell on Shi Shang emotionlessly. After a few seconds, he looked away. Uncle Rong, let her in. Young master. Uncle Rong was surprised. Did the young master know this girl? Why hadn't he heard the young master mention her before? Wengu turned and walked inside. Shi Shang looked at Uncle Rong. Uncle Rong could only step aside and let Shi Shang in with a suspicious look. The ward was full last night, but it was empty today. Although it was not as empty as before, one could still see the whole ward at a glance. Wengu was sitting on the hospital bed, leaning against the headboard. The computer was on his lap and his fingers were typing on the keyboard. Shi Shang stood next to him. Guru, I'm Su Xin. Wengu, the latter said concisely. Shi Shang dragged the only chair in the room and sat next to him. Wengu lifted his eyes and glanced at her. How did you know I was here? Shi Shang smiled. Do you believe in telepathy? What do you think? I don't care if you believe it or not, but I do. Shi Shang shrugged and changed the topic. Can I borrow the computer? I didn't bring it with me. Let me show you the pictures. Wengu frowned, turned off the computer and handed it to her. Shi Shang skillfully logged into cloud storage and downloaded the pictures. Then she returned it to him. Here, I changed it according to your request. Wengu flipped through the pictures one by one. Indeed, it was changed according to his request. The shadow at the back of this picture is too faint. It might not be visible after printing. The wings are a little asymmetrical. Wengu's voice was neither fast nor slow, giving off a comfortable and peaceful feeling. Where? Shi Shang leaned over. Wengu frowned even more. He turned the computer towards her and moved away from her. He pointed at the pictures on the screen. Here and here. Oh. Wengu picked out several problems with a few good pictures, and they were all negligible. Shi Shang suddenly understood why the nurses didn't like him last night. Who could stand his fussiness? Young master, it's time to take your medicine. Uncle Rong came in and saw Shi Shang holding his young master's computer and changing it. The young master was sitting at the side reading a book. His expression changed strangely. Okay. Wengu put down the book and took the medicine. Uncle Rong hurriedly poured a glass of water and carefully handed it to Wengu. Wengu's gaze fell on the glass. Change it. Uncle Rong glanced at the glass and went to wash it and pour water again without saying anything. You're always so. Shi Shang raised his head and looked at Wengu. I'm always so annoying. Wengu finished her sentence. So Miss Su, don't waste your time on me. Uncle Rong came out of the room and heard Wengu's words. He was even more surprised. Did this girl like the young master? There were actually many girls who liked the young master. Of course, That was before they met the young master. Once they met the young master, not many girls could stand him. Change it. Uncle Rong sighed. He couldn't see what was wrong with the glass at all, but the young master was picky. I'll go. Shi Shang put down the computer and reached out to ask Uncle Rong for the glass. Uncle Rong looked at his young master hesitantly. The young master hated people touching his things, especially strangers. That was why he was so surprised when he saw Shi Shang use his computer. When Gu didn't comment, Uncle Rong had to hand the glass to Shi Shang. Sorry to trouble you, Mississippi. It's my honor to serve the Almighty. Chapter 1591. Shi Shang took the water out. The temperature and water level were suitable, but Wen Gu still asked him to change it. After that, he changed it several times in a row. Can you tell me what's wrong? Shi Shang bent down and looked at him. His voice was soft and almost coaxing. Uncle Rong's eyes widened. He didn't dare to ask the young master what was wrong. He could only change it himself. This young lady was really bold. The cup. What's wrong with the cup? Shi Shang looked at Uncle Rong. Uncle Rong was also puzzled. The young master used this cup before, but he would only use it after changing it many times. You don't like this cup? The pattern is not symmetrical. Shi Shang glanced at the pattern on the quilt. It was two simple diamond-shaped patterns. How could he see that it was not symmetrical? Were his eyes X-ray? Shi Shang went to get another cup without the pattern and handed it to him. Wen Gu waited until the water in the cup stopped moving before taking the medicine. Shi Shang looked at the time. It had been half an hour. Not everyone could wait on him. Uncle Rong was obviously used to this kind of time. Sometimes, it would take much longer than this. At the beginning, the nurses had been tortured a lot. Shi Shang sat back on the chair and continued to edit the pictures. Uncle Rong glanced at her and then at Wen Gu, who had his head lowered. He shook his head and left the ward. Wen Gu was very quiet except for when he told her how to edit the pictures. Shi Shang brought her laptop over the next day. Perhaps it was because of work, but Wen Gu didn't chase her away. Shi Shang finally experienced how annoying Wen Gu was. He was picky about food and water for a long time. When someone came in, he would also be picky for a long time. Shi Shang was glad that she wasn't so picky when she came in. Almighty, take a look. Shi Shang pushed the laptop over. Are you satisfied? He had edited the pictures until he wanted to die. Wen Gu looked at it carefully and frowned. He seemed to be trying to find a flaw, but in the end, there was no flaw for him to find. He could only nod. It's done. Send it to Yang Huai. Wen Gu paused. Delete those pictures. Don't use my main character to draw those pictures. Miss Su, haven't I said this before? What picture? Shi Shang asked innocently. If you have the energy to draw the last few pictures, you should improve your drawing skills. You won't have to change so many times in the future. Did I not draw the last few pictures well? She was most satisfied with those pictures. How about I give them to you as a gift? It's free. Wen Gu, I'm just kidding. I didn't show this picture to anyone else. Shi Shang compressed the document and said, Guru, when will you be discharged? This is my private matter. You can't say that. We may have many opportunities to work together in the future. Let's improve our relationship. Maybe you'll fall for me. Wen Gu didn't think that he could develop any feelings with a painter who painted R18. Since the work is done, Miss Su, I won't see you out. Don't be so cold. Shi Shang closed the computer and put her hands on both sides of Wen Gu. She leaned closer to him in a classic bed posture. She lowered her eyes and there were soft ripples in her eyes. Wen Gu, you'll definitely be mine. Ahem. Shi Shang calmly retracted her hands and looked at Uncle Rong, who was standing at the door awkwardly. I'll leave first. I've saved my number in your phone. Don't delete it or block it. Shi Shang paused and there seemed to be a smile in her eyes. Even if you delete it, I'll still be able to find you. Shi Shang winked at Wengu and turned to leave. Goodbye, Uncle Rong. Ahem. Goodbye, Miss Sue. Uncle Rong watched Shi Shang leave. He didn't enter the ward until she entered the elevator and closed the door behind her. Young master, Miss Sue is so patient. Uncle Rong sighed as he helped him make the bed. If it were anyone else, they would have lost their temper. However, Miss Sue didn't lose her temper from beginning to end. Just now, Uncle Rong paused and asked carefully, Young master, does Miss Sue like you? Yes. The corner of Uncle Rong's mouth twitched. Young master, why did you react so calmly? Young master, you can also try to fall in love. Miss Sue is not bad. At least, he had never seen any of the young master's suitors be so patient. Those girls were usually only interested in the young master's appearance. When the young master revealed a little bit of his personality, they would stay away from him and even hate him. Uncle Rong, do you want me to die early? Uncle Rong was stunned. Then he lowered his head in disappointment and fell silent. Young master couldn't be too emotional. But if he fell in love, let's leave the hospital today. Wengu looked out of the window. The sky was gloomy and it seemed like it was going to rain. That girl gave him a strange feeling. She had a lot of problems, but he didn't want to talk about them. When she was around, the whole world seemed to give him a sense of security. Chen Gu entered the publicity period. As the cover author, Shi Shang naturally had to cooperate with the publicity. Yang Huai also said that the villain's contract had been drafted. When Shi Shang checked it and found no problems, the contract could be signed. Shi Shang couldn't let them sign the contract, so he had to go to the publishing house himself. As soon as he entered the publishing house, he saw a very large bookshelf with books published by the publishing house. Shi Shang told the receptionist that he was looking for Yang Huai. The receptionist confirmed and let Shi Shang in. There were several sections in the publishing house. Yang Huai was in the innermost section. Miss Sue. Feng Ruishuan saw Shi Shang when he came out of the meeting room. He immediately waved his hand and greeted him. Are you here to sign the contract? Shi Shang nodded. Feng Ruishuan asked the others to leave first and walked to Shi Shang. Baby Hao asked me to take good care of you. Let's go. I'll take you there myself. Shi Shang opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, Feng Ruishuan said, Don't worry. Since Miss Sue doesn't want to, and I'm not a pester, we can still be friends. Thank you very much. Don't mention it. You'll bring us benefits if you come to our publishing house. Originally, we were weak in the comics industry and couldn't compete with other publishing houses. But now that we have you, things are different. Feng Ruishuan brought Shi Shang to the editing department. Yang Huai, ask Haruko to bring the contract here. Haruko is in charge of your editor-in-chief. The last sentence was said to Shi Shang. Ah, Su Xian. Before Yang Huai appeared, a girl rushed out of the editing department. She's alive. I actually saw Su Xian in real life. Boss, can I have your autograph? Lien Rong. The girl was pleasantly surprised and her eyes were full of hearts. Boss still remembers me. I'm so happy. Shi Shang. It's written on your work pass. Go back to work. Feng Ruishuan pushed Lien Rong. Ask Yang Huai and Haruko to come to the meeting room. Wait, boss. Ask Goddess Su Xian to give me her autograph. Lien Rong took out a pen and a note from her pocket and looked at Shi Shang expectantly. Goddess, can I have your autograph? It's my pleasure to sign an autograph for a cute girl. Ah, the goddess praised me for being cute. The goddess is so handsome. Feng Ruishuan. When did the publishing house have such a little fangirl? Why didn't he see it before? Chapter 1592. After Shi Shang signed the contract, Lien Rong walked in with a red face. She looked at the people in the editorial department with a weird expression. What's wrong with her? Feng Ruishuan took Shi Shang to the conference room first, followed by Yang Huai and Haruko. Yang Huai was a man who looked no more than 30. Haruko was a woman in her 30s. She looked like an elite in the publishing house. Shi Shang flipped through the contract lazily. After confirming that there were no problems, she signed her name directly. Yang Huai and Haruko were ready to bargain and try to persuade her not to change the contract. Who knew that she would sign it just like that? Without any warning. She was caught off guard. Haruko. This is the fastest contract I've ever seen. Yang Huai. He didn't want to say anything. Because of Shi Shang's straightforwardness, the contract was signed quickly. Feng Ruishuan invited Shi Shang to dinner. Shi Shang was not very willing and politely refused. Feng Ruishuan didn't say anything and sent her away. Wengu is coming over later, right? Haruko chatted with Yang Huai. Chenggu is going to be listed soon. He's coming over to confirm some details. Ah, he wants to ask for leave. I feel like I'm a few years older talking to him. Look at my white hair. It's all because of him. Yang Huai replied helplessly. I've never seen a boy like Wengu. Haruko was older, so she naturally spoke in an elder's tone. Don't mention it. It's been a lot better in the past 2 years. You don't know that when I first took over, I wanted to block him every day. As an editor, it was easy to imagine how annoying it was to block an author. Wengu is coming? Yes. Yang Huai answered subconsciously. After answering, he realized that there was something wrong with the voice. He looked up and saw Shi Shang standing in front of him. Their boss was gone. Can I stay and wait for him? Shi Shang asked with a smile. Yang Huai remembered that this person had asked for his contact information. His mouth twitched. Sure. You're the cover artist of Chenggu too. He really wanted to see her face when she saw Wengu and her dream was shattered. Haruko and Yang Huai were not in the same office. After adding each other as friends, Shi Shang followed Yang Huai to their editorial office. Lianrong's little fangirl was very willing to contribute her position. She was busy pouring water and snacks for Shi Shang. She was just like a little lackey, which made everyone feel horrified. Goddess, is there anything else? Lianrong asked curiously after finishing her work. Waiting for someone. Who are you waiting for? Lianrong blinked her eyes and tried her best to make herself look more adorable. The goddess praised her for being adorable. She's waiting for Wengu. Yang Huai raised his head and answered on behalf of Shi Shang. Lianrong. Lianrong was probably also a girl who had been ravaged by Wengu. She swallowed her saliva with difficulty. Goddess? Why are you waiting for him? Your cover has already been approved, so you don't have to wait for him. Shi Shang smiled and didn't say anything. Lianrong stood there for a while, then she went to the locust tree and poked it hard. Why is my goddess waiting for teacher Wengu? Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Yang Huai waved his hand as he shooed away the flies. Don't bother me, I'm busy. He had to deal with Wengu and all kinds of weirdos looking for trouble, so he had to conserve his energy. When the people in the editorial department heard that Wengu was coming, some people directly asked for leave or went to the field with the excuse of rushing the manuscript. The higher-ups probably knew that they couldn't let Wengu ravage the staff, lest the staff asked for compensation for mental damage, so they didn't refuse. The editors who couldn't use this excuse to leave could only discuss for a while. They would collectively go to the toilet and wait for Wengu to leave before coming back. Yang Huai felt even more hopeless. You guys can still go to the toilet, but what can I do? Of course, I can only choose to forgive him. The editorial department, which was originally quite lively, immediately became empty. Lianrong insisted on not leaving because her goddess was here, but she looked very nervous. She was like a soldier going to the battlefield, waiting for the general's order and she would rush out to die. She looked very funny. Shi Shang played games with nothing to do. About half an hour later, Wengu appeared outside the editorial department. Before he came in, the editors in the editorial department all got up and ran away from him as if they were avoiding the plague. Wengu came in from outside and his gaze fell on Sheng. Sheng waved his phone. Guru. Lian Rong sat next to Sheng and greeted Wengu with a stiff smile. Teacher Wengu. Wengu's face was expressionless, but he didn't give people a cold feeling. He exuded a very peaceful aura. But it was this kind of person who looked like a Prince Charming from afar and was also a Prince Charming up close that made people want to die when he was picky. Teacher Wengu, you're here. Yang Huai stood up from his seat and hurriedly pulled out a clean chair. He also cleaned up the things on the table while he was at it. Wengu walked closer and glanced at the chair. This chair. Teacher Wengu, our editorial department only has this condition. Even if you're picky, I can't make it for you. Please make do with it. Obviously, Yang Huai was very experienced. Wengu didn't sit down in disdain. If he didn't sit, Yang Huai didn't dare to sit either. Even Lian Rong stood up. Only Sheng sat there calmly. Miss Su. Yes. You'll get sick easily if you sit like this. I suggest you don't sit like this. A girl should have a good sitting posture. You're very rude to the people here. Lian Rong couldn't bear to look at him and held her forehead. Her goddess was being lectured. Sheng was still sitting there sloppily. He even shook his legs. He was as hooligan as he could be. She raised her eyebrows. Oh, then how should I sit? Teach me. Lian Rong opened 2 gaps between her fingers and carefully looked over there. Why did it feel like Teacher Wengu was being teased? Wengu lowered his eyes and walked to the table that Yang Huai had cleaned up. Let's begin. Yang Huai hurriedly took out the things that he had prepared and spread them out. Lian Rong. That's it? She silently gave Sheng a thumbs up. Teacher Wengu only said 1 sentence today and then stopped. What a miracle. Yang Huai was nervously looking at Wengu. He was in a state of high tension. His palms were full of cold sweat. He was afraid that the man opposite him would say something hurtful. He knew that Wengu was coming today, so he had carefully checked his clothes from head to toe. There was absolutely no problem. But reality slapped him hard in the face. Your tie doesn't match your clothes. Your hair needs to be cut. There's dirt under your fingernails. Yang Huai. Let me die. Yang Huai waited for Wengu to finish before he went to the toilet to clean up. After making sure that there were no problems, he returned to the editing department. Wengu looked him up and down twice and didn't continue to be picky. Yang Huai heaved a sigh of relief. He quickly started and sent this plague away. No. Don't. Change. The conversation that followed was like this. Yang Huai endured the whole time and kept noting down the places where Wengu said, no, don't, and change. Being an editor was like being a servant. Was it easy for him? Chapter 1593. Teacher Wengu, I'll walk you out. Yang Huai heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly sent this plague away. No need, I know the way. Wengu refused. Let me walk you out. Sheng stood up from the chair and smiled. I'm going out too. Sheng blocked Wengu's refusal. His lips moved and his gaze swept past Sheng before he finally turned and left. Sheng waved at Yang Huai and Lian Rong and hurriedly followed. Goddess. Lian Rong bit her handkerchief and waved. Goddess, take care. After Sheng and Wengu disappeared from the door, Lian Rong looked at Yang Huai with tears in her eyes. My goddess isn't interested in Teacher Wengu, is she? Yang Huai wiped his cold sweat. That's very possible. Last time, she asked for his contact information. This time, she deliberately stayed behind to wait for him. If she didn't like him, what else could it be? Boo-hoo. Why did the goddess take things so hard? Everything has its vanquisher. Today's Wengu is obviously much gentler than before. I think there's something going on between these two. Yang Huai showed an experienced expression. Lian Rong. So scary. A cool breeze blew from time to time in November. It was so cold that it gave people goosebumps. However, there were still young girls on the street who were not afraid of the cold. Cars came and went. The whole city seemed to be immersed in the hustle and bustle. Wengu stepped out of the publishing house and took a deep breath. Then, he remembered that there was an extra person beside him. He uncomfortably held his breath and said gently and politely, "Goodbye, Miss Sue. Why didn't you pick up my call?" Shi Shang tilted her head and looked at the man. There was a calmness in her eyes that made people unable to help but calm down with her. Wengu's heart strangely skipped a beat and his tone softened. "Miss Sue, we're not close enough to call each other. We'll be close if you pick up." "Goodbye, Miss Sue." Wengu nodded at Shi Shang and walked past her. Wengu didn't walk fast. The person behind him didn't catch up. He couldn't tell if he was disappointed or something else. In short, he felt a little uncomfortable. A moment later, a smile appeared on Wengu's face. He shook his head slightly. What right did a person who needed to control his emotions have to possess things that didn't belong to him? Love was not something he could have, nor could he have. Wengu hadn't received any calls or texts from Shi Shang for several days. He didn't even receive any harassment on the internet. He actually felt a little disappointed. Wengu paced back and forth in the empty room, his gaze scattered in the void. It was unknown where his mind had wandered off to. Uncle Rong was very worried and asked tentatively, "Young master, your mood has been fluctuating a lot these days. Did something happen?" "What happened?" He didn't know what had happened. He had only seen her a few times. Wengu fell back onto the bed, turned on the computer, and clicked on the familiar profile picture. It was dark. She wasn't here. "Uncle Rong, I'm fine." Wengu closed the computer and said in a low voice, "You go and rest first." Uncle Rong was even more worried. The young master had been acting strangely these days. He kept turning the computer on and off. He had watched the young master grow up. When the one family was in trouble, they left him a sum of money. That sum of money was enough for him to live a stable life for the rest of his life. The young master had wanted to rely on that sum of money to make a comeback, but man proposes, God disposes. The young master suddenly fell ill, and it was a very strange illness. His emotions had to be controlled in a very calm state. Whether it was joy or sadness, once he couldn't control his emotions, it would cause the young master to break down. At first, the young master couldn't control his emotions and often went to the hospital. It took a long time for the young master to control his emotions. But recently, not only had the young master been hospitalized, but he had also been acting strangely. It really worried him. Uncle Rong sighed. The young master had a lot of things on his mind. No one knew what he was thinking. In the evening, Wengu finished his meal and was typing in the living room. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise next door. He looked at it strangely. "Uncle Rong, is there someone living next door?" Uncle Rong came in from outside and said respectfully, "It's Miss Sue. When I came back just now, I saw her instructing people to move." Wengu's fingertips paused. "Sue Xian?" Uncle Rong nodded. Wengu got up and walked out. There was no one in the corridor. The door next door was open and there were people walking around. Wengu stood at the door and watched for a while. No one came out. He hesitated whether to go over. Then, he saw a few people wearing the clothes of a moving company come out and leave, chatting and laughing. Wengu returned to the room and prepared to close the door. "Wengu, come here." A head popped out from next door and waved at him with a smile. Wengu's hand that was holding the door handle tightened. "Young master, go ahead." Uncle Rong sighed softly. Uncle Rong's words seemed to give Wengu an excuse. He glanced at Uncle Rong as if to say that he was only going because Uncle Rong asked him to. Wengu stepped out of the door. The corridor, which was not long, seemed to extend infinitely at this time. When he stood in front of the Shi Shang's door, he still felt a little unreal. Why did he come over? "Come in." Wengu glanced into the room. It was very messy. It was so messy that he wanted to empty the place. The layout was different from his place. It looked smaller. Perhaps it was because there were too many things that it looked so small. When Gu entered the room, the Shi Sheng immediately showed a pitiful expression. Help me. There are so many things. It will take me a long time to tidy them up alone. Her tone was a little coquettish. When Gu didn't know why he wanted to laugh, he quickly suppressed his emotions. I'll ask Uncle Rong to help you. He turned around and was about to leave, but his hand was grabbed. The woman behind him approached him and stuffed something cold into his hand. Keep the key to my house. Why are you giving it to me? Wen Gu asked curiously. Neighbors. If I forget my key one day, I can still look for you. Wen Gu. Although he knew it was an excuse, Wen Gu still accepted it. He went to ask Uncle Rong to help her tidy up the house. He didn't appear again. Miss Su, did you move here for the young master? Uncle Rong helped the Shi Shang clean the floor. Yes. The Shi Shang fiddled with the original owner's books and placed them on the bookshelf one by one. Does he have any taboos? Uncle Rong, tell me. I don't want to provoke him and make him unhappy. Young master. There were too many taboos. And the kind that could change. Even he couldn't understand the young master sometimes. Uncle Rong put down the broom and looked at the Shi Shang seriously. Miss Su, the young master's emotions can't fluctuate too much. Any joy or sadness will make the young master collapse. So if you really like the young master, you can't let the young master have these emotions. Is this an illness? Uncle Rong's expression darkened. At first, I thought that the young master had a psychological problem because of the one family. But after a few rounds, I found out that it was an extremely rare neurological disease. Asterisk illness is nonsense. I don't know if it exists or not. Hashtag today, please vote for me. Hashtag all, come and vote, come and make a scene. Chapter 1594. When Uncle Rong returned, he saw his young master sitting on the sofa. Although he was staring at the computer screen, there was no reflection on it. His voice sounded faintly. Uncle Rong, let's move. Young master, are you serious? When Gu's gaze fell on the key beside him. After a moment, he sighed faintly. It's okay. Prepare dinner. Yes. Uncle Rong went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Beep beep. When Gu lowered his head and looked at the screen. Su Xian's cartoon avatar was flashing wildly. The avatar seemed to be from Throne of Honor, which was her famous work. Su Xian. Almighty, please have a meal. Changxia. I don't have much. Su Xian. It's okay. I'll be full just by looking at you. Changxia. He couldn't be eaten as a meal. When Gu closed the computer and got up to walk to the room. Halfway through, he turned back and took the key. When he passed by the kitchen, he said, Uncle Rong, make one more set and send it to her later. Okay, young master. Su Xian. Almighty, thank you for feeding me. Should I give you food expenses? I don't know how to cook, and takeout isn't delicious. When Gu saw this sentence when he came out of the shower, he wrapped a towel around himself and reached out a hand to reply. Changxia, Uncle Rong sent it to you. It has nothing to do with me. Su Xian. Uncle Rong is so nice. Of course, in my heart, you're the best. When Gu always felt that her words were flirtatious. He rubbed his fingers twice and pushed the computer away to find clothes to wear. He put on his clothes and prepared to write, but for some reason, he clicked on her dialogue box. She sent a few more sentences. Su Xian. Almighty, why is the soundproofing in your neighborhood so bad? Are the people downstairs crazy? The music is so loud. Su Xian. Crazy. JPG. Su Xian, I can't take it. This message was sent a minute ago. Wen Gu's room was specially custom-made. The soundproofing was very good, but as soon as he reached the living room, he could vaguely hear the music downstairs. Wen Gu had just walked into the living room when the music stopped. What's wrong with the young master? Uncle Rong saw Wan Gu standing at the door with a strange expression. Wan Gu shook his head. He went to get a cup of water and poured it away. He repeatedly poured 5 cups of water before he finally drank a mouthful. Shi Shang came up from downstairs and saw the door of old Wen's house slowly closing. She ran over quickly and put her hand into the gap of the door that hadn't been closed yet. Hiss! The people behind the door obviously did not expect Shi Shang to do this and successfully clamped her wrist. "Miss Su, young master," Uncle Rong exclaimed from behind, and then the door was pulled open. "Miss Su, are you okay?" Shi Shang glanced at the person standing behind Uncle Rong and shook his head in pain. "I'm fine. Your hands are all red. Can young master let Miss Su in? I'll apply the medicine for her." Uncle Rong inquired about the murderer's background. The murderer, Wan Gu, turned around and left. Uncle Rong hurriedly let her in, asked her to sit on the sofa, and then went to get the medical kit. However, when he saw his young master coming out with the medical kit, he was stunned for a moment and said tactfully, "I'll prepare some snacks for you." Shi Shang's wrist was already swollen. Wan Gu put down the medical kit. "Why did you use your hand to block it? If I used more strength, your hand would have been broken. I didn't know you were so strong." Shi Shang was speechless. The speed of the door was obviously very slow, but he didn't expect it to be so strong. "The door is special." Wan Gu pinched her hand and looked at it. "Does it hurt?" "It's okay." She didn't dare to play any tricks now. It would be terrible if she made him too emotional. "It's not very painful. I used my hand to block it just now. It has nothing to do with you." Wan Gu could tell from her tone that she was being careful. He pursed his lips, took out the disinfectant with alcohol, and then applied the ointment to reduce swelling and bruising. After applying the ointment, Wan Gu tidied up and got up. "Miss Su, you will never get what you want from me. So, don't waste your time on me." He couldn't even give her a smile. What was the point of being with a person like him? "Wan Gu." Shi Shang tugged at his clothes. "Don't use it as an excuse. No matter what problem you have, I don't mind. I can cooperate with you. I can't give you what you want." Wan Gu pulled back his clothes. "I'm sorry. You are the only one in the world who can give me what I want." Wan Gu paused. In the distance, Uncle Rong silently retracted his head and closed the kitchen door considerately. The whole living room fell into a strange silence. About a minute later, Wan Gu went into the room without looking back. Shi Shang sat on the sofa and stared at the ground, thinking about something. Uncle Rong came out carefully and put the fragrant snacks in front of Shi Shang. "Miss Su." "Uncle Rong, if you have something to say, please say it." Shi Shang put away the unfathomable expression on his face and looked up with a smile. Uncle Rong sighed. "Actually, I'm very conflicted. I hope that the young master can live a better life, but I'm also worried that your appearance will bring more pain to the young master. Miss Su, forgive me for saying this, but I want to put the young master's health first." "You're right." Shi Shang stood up. Uncle Rong looked at Shi Shang in surprise. Was she going to give up? Wan Gu leaned against the door. The sound of her leaving could be heard through the gap of the door. It was good to give up. At least he wouldn't have to suffer in the future. But so what? "I just want him, dead or alive." Gotcha. The living room was silent. Wan Gu felt his heart beating a little fast and it was a little uncomfortable. But for the first time, he didn't feel scared. The darkness couldn't block the waves of warmth coming from his body. After getting rid of the difficulties of the original author, Ancient Worlds was finally listed. Wan Gu wasn't an online writer before, but he had a lot of fans and they were all based on physical books. Therefore, the sales were very good. It was sold online and offline at the same time. It achieved good results on the first day. In the next few days, Ancient Worlds could be seen everywhere in the industry. Shi Shang heard that there were already people contacting the platform of Ancient Worlds to buy the copyright and film a TV series. It was very popular. At this time, Ancient Worlds came out again. The promotional video for Ancient Worlds was released. The image was very good and it immediately attracted many fans. Shi Shang was busy buying Ku Man and couldn't be bothered with these. Without evidence, it was useless no matter what. Once she was done buying, she would immediately kill this project and solve the problem from the root. Knock knock. Okay, you can confirm the shares over there first. Shi Shang's voice stopped abruptly. After a moment, he smoothly continued, I'll find time to go over. Don't let anyone take advantage of us. Make sure we have the most shares. Only then can we have the right to speak. She hung up the phone and smiled. You're willing to see me? Ever since that day, when Gu refused to see her. Even if she went over, she could only see Uncle Rong. Can I go in? When Gu pointed inside, Shi Shang opened the door and put one hand on his chest. He bowed slightly and made a standard aristocratic bow. Welcome, Your Highness. When Gu didn't know if he was amused by her, but he pursed his lips slightly. Shi Shang took out the slippers he had prepared. Wan Gu's gaze paused for a few seconds. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with them, he took off his shoes. Chapter 1595. When Gu sat on the sofa and put down the things in his hands. He didn't give Shi Shang a chance to speak. I want you to draw Millennium's comic. Huh? Shi Shang was stunned. This is the contract. When Gu pushed the things on the table towards Shi Shang. If you're willing, sign your name. If not, then forget it. Shi Shang touched his chin and found a pen. He flipped to the last page and signed his name. Don't you want to look at the contract? Shi Shang closed the contract and chuckled. Because it's you. Even if it's a trap, I'm willing to jump in. She stood up with the contract and handed it to the man on the sofa. Happy working with you, Guru. Wan Gu's eyes flashed. He took the contract and said in a low voice, Happy working with you. The weather became hot again. The staff complained about the weather and wanted to find a freezer to cool down. However, they didn't have time to cool down. Even if they wanted to jump into the river, they could only endure it and get busy with their work. The reporters have entered. 5 minutes left. Everyone, hurry up. Hurry up, run. Move faster. Over there, hurry up. The backstage was noisy. Dark Cloud walked out from the busy crowd. Under the guidance of the staff, he entered the place where he would go on stage later. Today was the premiere of Devil General's comic. She was attending as the original author. Dark Cloud wasn't in a good state. She was even a little nervous. She came today secretly from Thunderbolt. When she went on stage, she said the wrong things several times. If the MC didn't smooth things over, it would have been awkward. Thank you, everyone. Devil General will be broadcasted in July. At that time, the MC's voice suddenly disappeared. Her face was full of surprise and disbelief. What's wrong? What happened? Dark Cloud looked at the MC's expression and suddenly had a bad feeling. Sorry, Devil General has cancelled the broadcast. There will be a press conference later. Reporters, please move to Hall 3. As soon as she said this, there was an uproar. Not only were there reporters, but there were also people from the industry. The MC hurriedly asked someone to bring the reporters to Hall 3 to appease the industry leaders. Why is it cancelled? Dark Cloud felt very uneasy. She walked up to the host and asked, Why didn't I receive any news? I'm sorry, Miss Wu. It was just passed down from the top. We don't know what's going on. She had just received the news. What could she do? What are you guys doing? Why are you canceling it just like that? Have you asked for our opinion? The animation's main creative team also surrounded them. You must give me an explanation. That's right. You have to give us an explanation, or we'll see you in court. The host tried to appease these people, but the effect was not good. It was not until someone asked them to go to the back and the relevant person in charge gave an explanation that they reluctantly quieted down. Dark Cloud followed the group into a conference room. There were many lawyers waiting for them inside. And sitting on the main seat was someone she didn't expect. Dark Cloud widened his eyes. Sue Exon. Why was she here? Still sitting in that seat. The people who came in looked at each other. The staff arranged for them to sit opposite the row of lawyers, so that each of them could face a lawyer. Shi Shang knocked on the table with his fingertips, and his crisp voice rang out in the conference room. Everyone, please take a look at the termination letter. If there's no problem, please sign it. Contract termination letter? Why do you want to terminate the contract? The broadcast is about to start. If you terminate the contract now, is your company crazy? You've invested so much in the early stage, and you want to terminate the contract just like that? Faced with these questions, Shi Sheng acted like a big boss. Can't you do whatever you want with money? Everyone, the company broke the contract first. The company will pay the maximum amount for the liquidated damages. If you're not willing to terminate the contract, then you can hire a lawyer to fight the case. Our company has no objections, one of the lawyers said. Who is she? Someone pointed at Shi Sheng. Isn't Director Zhou in charge of this project? Director Zhou has been fired, the lawyer replied without changing his expression. This is the president of our company, Director Su. Everyone, wasn't the president of Common Company surnamed Fei? Since when was his surname Su? All right, they didn't understand the competition between these upper-class people. But the Demon General will be a very successful work and will bring profits to your company. I don't understand why Director Su wants to give it up. Shi Shang's lips curled up. His gaze swept across everyone and landed on Dark Cloud. The author knows the specific reason. Why don't you ask her to explain it to you? Shi Sheng emphasized the word author. Everyone's gaze landed on Dark Cloud. Dark Cloud's face instantly turned pale. I don't know. She knew that she was here for her. But she didn't expect Su Xin to have such a powerful background. Miss Dark Cloud, what's going on? Do you know this Director Su? When they came in just now, they heard her call out a name. Coincidentally, that name also started with Su. Dark Cloud looked at the woman in front of her and panicked. Why couldn't she let her go? Why did she have to kill her? I don't know. I don't know her. Dark Cloud stood up and rushed out of the conference room with a roar. No one would believe that she didn't know her. Director Su, even if Miss Dark Cloud offended you, it has nothing to do with us or the work. You don't have to be so ruthless, right? Someone asked unwillingly. I gave you a huge sum of money as compensation. Shi Sheng spread his hands. It's much more than what you'll get for this project. It's not about the money. This is our hard work. Who didn't want to make a classic? Shi Sheng glanced at the lawyers. They immediately took out another contract from the bottom of the document and pushed it in front of the group. The adaptation of the novel Ancient Worlds is about to start. If you're interested, you can join us. This team was great. Moreover, they didn't know the inside story of the Devil General. Hence, Shi Sheng didn't feel that there was anything wrong with using them. The team with the termination agreement in their left hand and the new contract in their right hand was very puzzled. What kind of development was this? Ancient Worlds had been rumored to be making an anime, but there was no definite news. The manga was also delayed. The author of the manga was called Su Xin. Su Xin? Only then did everyone realize that there was an artist named Su Xin in the circle. Previously, that Su Xin seemed to have a conflict with Dark Cloud. Someone whispered. Seems like there was a plagiarism issue. Someone took out his phone and searched. The previous incident could still be found. Looking at the comments online, everyone fell silent again. It made sense that Dark Cloud and Su Xin had a conflict. Why did she have to be so willful and kill the Devil General? Shi Sheng stood up and left. His voice was heard slowly. If you're sure to join us, Just sign your name. You can take your time to consider it. There's no rush. Chapter 1596. Take him to the hospital? Shi Shang held Wengu and asked Uncle Rong with a serious face. No, I'll get the medicine. Uncle Rong shook his head and went to the drawer to get the medicine. Shi Shang carried Wengu to the bed, took the medicine from Uncle Rong and stuffed it into Wengu's mouth, but Wengu spat it out. Uncle Rong quickly poured 2 more pills into Wengu's mouth, but he spat them out several times. Shi Shang. Young master. Uncle Rong continued to pour the medicine. There should be no problem with the medicine. Although the young master would spit it out in the past, it would be fed after 3 times. Shi Shang was afraid that Wengu would continue to spit it out, so she fed the medicine into his mouth and forced him to swallow it. The tip of his tongue was hot and Shi Shang curled it up. Wengu seemed to like the coolness of her tongue and took the initiative to wrap himself around her. Uncle Rong. See no evil, see no evil. With someone nearby, Shi Shang comforted him and quickly retreated. After the medicine was fed, Wengu fell into a deep sleep. There seemed to be a trace of pain between his eyebrows, so he couldn't sleep well. Shi Shang wiped the corner of his mouth. Uncle Rong, I'm sorry. I didn't notice. She promised Uncle Rong that she wouldn't let anything happen to him. Uncle Rong didn't say anything and left the room. Shi Shang looked at the person on the bed. She was afraid that she couldn't do anything extreme in the future. She had tried her best to control herself, but who knew that something like this would still happen? Shi Shang held his hand and kissed it as carefully as if it was a treasure. I'm sorry. Since that incident, Shi Shang didn't move in with him. Since she didn't mention it, Wengu naturally wouldn't mention it either. Wengu also found that Shi Shang didn't flirt with him for no reason. She would do whatever he said and rarely refuted him. Even if she didn't like it, she would just get rid of it behind his back. Wengu didn't know whether to laugh or cry at being treated like a treasure. Miss Su, the young master wants to go out for a walk. Can you accompany him? Uncle Rong was very worried when he asked this. What if something happened outside? But since the young master insisted, there was nothing he could do. Go out? Isn't he His Highness? Why is he thinking of going out? Shi Shang raised his head from a pile of information and asked curiously. Unless it was necessary, this young master would never step out of his room. He was even more precious than the princesses of ancient times. Young master said he wanted to go out for a walk. Shi Shang looked at the pile of unfinished business and turned off the computer decisively. Okay, I'll go with him. Uncle Rong answered and hurriedly handed the prepared medicine to Shi Shang. Miss Su, don't let young master go to places with too many people. Pay more attention to the environment. Yes, I know. Since they couldn't go to crowded places, Shi Shang had to take Wengu to the park. The place was big and there were fewer people. The two of them walked side by side on a small path filled with bamboo. There was no one around, and the bamboo leaves rustled in the breeze. Have you been distancing yourself from me lately? Wengu suddenly blurted out such a sentence. Shi Shang was shocked and stopped where he was. He turned his head and looked at Wengu strangely. Where did you get this conclusion? Recently, you... Wengu pursed his lips and blushed before he could say anything. You haven't asked me for... What do you want? Shi Shang didn't hear the last few words clearly. She almost didn't say it out loud. Her lips moved, but she didn't understand what he said at all. He leaned over and kissed Shi Shang on the cheek. This. Shi Shang laughed. I'm afraid you'll do what you did last time. I didn't distance myself from you. Don't think too much. Wengu's ears turned red. It's just that I can control myself. She was his girlfriend. He should give her the corresponding rights, but there were some things he really couldn't give her. Shi Shang took his hand, her eyes smiling as she asked, Then can I give you a kiss, Your Highness? Wengu smiled and nodded slightly. The soft rustling of the bamboo forest seemed to be the accompaniment for the man and woman hugging each other below. It played a beautiful and moving song, engraved them into the music score and brought them far away. Is Villain going to be released? On the way back, Wangu held Shishang's hand. I think so. The publishing house was in charge of this and she didn't ask about it. Last time, editor Haruko seemed to have told her that the book was going to be pre-sold. Is there a signing event? Yes. The original owner used to hold signing events. Although there weren't many places, there was always a new book signing event. I don't want you to go. Okay, I won't go. Before Wengu could come up with an excuse, he heard Shishang agree without hesitation. Shishang walked Wengu to the elevator and kissed him on the cheek. Let's go upstairs first. I'm going to buy something. What is it? 4 girls. Do you want to go with me? Wengu quickly entered the elevator. Come back quickly. I'm waiting for you to eat. Shishang waited for the elevator door to close. Her face suddenly darkened and she looked coldly in a certain direction. She squeezed her wrist and walked straight in that direction. Soon, what seemed to be a scream sounded from that direction. It disappeared in an instant like a flash in the pan. Shishang didn't expect that Lei Tang was getting bolder and bolder. He even dared to hire a hitman. Did he really think that she couldn't do anything to him just because he had a halo? Shishang was afraid that Lei Tang would do something to the original owner's parents, so she went home first. Su Qingsong's parents said that they didn't care about the original owner, but in fact, they had been secretly paying attention to her. When Shishang went home, they were a little emotional. They didn't have a good time with their daughter for so many years. How could they not be sad when other people's children went home during the new year but their own child didn't even call? Now that they thought about it, they also regretted it. They could arrange things for her for a while, but could they arrange things for her for a lifetime? The child had her own path to walk. If they interfered too much, it would make the child feel disgusted. This was also the truth that they realized in the past few years. So when Shishang took the initiative to go home this time, Su Qingsong's parents relaxed and supported her to do what she liked. After dealing with Su Qingsong's parents, Shishang started to destroy the male protagonist professionally. Things happened to Lei Tang's group one after another. How could such a big group not have some dirty tricks? Shishang had long been on guard against Lei Tang's doing and had been collecting information. For Shishang, as long as there was something dangerous, even if he didn't do it himself, he had to have something that was beneficial to him. The one who took the first step would always have meat to eat. Lei Tang couldn't even take care of themselves, so they didn't have time to make trouble for Shishang. While Lei Tang was in deep trouble, Shishang's villain started to sell. The sales weren't as good as the original owners, but it was considered good in the supernatural genre. The Millennium comic also officially started to be serialized. It was officially serialized on the website. On Shishang's Weibo, there were various versions of Wangu's death. With the addition of small plots, fans couldn't stop reading. Don't think that just because Wangu admitted that Shishang was his girlfriend, he wouldn't dare to make trouble. If he did, he would only be more unreasonable. There was nothing he didn't dare to do. In the end, Shishang summed it up with one sentence, using illness as an excuse to commit murder. #hashtag today, I'm looking for Huang Jinhua votes #vote vote vote vote. I finished writing the Interstellar song ha ha ha. I've posted it to the author's Weibo and the book review section. Chapter 1597. President Lei, the bank isn't lending money. President Lei, President Huang doesn't want to see us. We need to postpone the contract. President Lei. All kinds of voices kept reporting to Lei Ting. Lei Ting was on the verge of exploding. A woman had forced him to this extent. How dare she? President Lei, the Fangs called to invite you to dinner, the assistant reported carefully. The Fangs? Lei Ting narrowed his eyes. Did they say anything? No. The assistant shook his head. The Fangs were Lei Ting's fiancé's family. The bank's refusal to lend money was most likely instigated by the Fangs. He knew that the Fangs were using this opportunity to force him. Mr. Lei. Fong Pinting stood at the door to greet him with a smile on her face. Lei Ting felt that her smile was a bit strange. Lei Ting looked at her from head to toe. She seemed more elegant than before. Although she was smiling, there was a sense of alienation. Alienation? Yes, there was something wrong with this. Fong Pinting had always looked at him with passion and infatuation. When had she ever looked at him with such alienation? Fong Pinting, if you're up to something, I advise you to give up. Mr. Lei, you're overthinking. I invited you here because I want to clarify something with you. Fong Pinting gestured for Lei Ting to enter. Lei Ting was sure that Fong Pinting was up to something. He suppressed his displeasure and entered the living room. Fong Pinting's parents were already sitting at the dining table, seemingly waiting for him. Lei Ting greeted them and sat down. Fong Pinting ordered the dishes to be served. For a moment, there was silence at the dining table. Fong Pinting drank a glass of red wine. Every movement of hers carried the charm of a mature woman. For the first time, Lei Ting realized that other than being pretty, this woman wasn't completely useless. Lei Ting retracted his gaze and looked at Fong Pinting's father. Uncle Fong, about my company's loan, may I know why it was rejected? It was fine if one bank didn't lend money. There were other banks, but this time, all the banks that could lend money didn't refuse to lend money to them. The only person who could do this was the man in front of him. Little Lei, about this matter, let's not talk about it first. Today, it's mainly Pin Ting who invited you here. You should listen to her first. Father Fong's expression was very calm. Lei Ting could only look at Fong Pinting and question her with his eyes. What was she doing? Fong Pinting took a sip of red wine. Mr. Lei, I invited you here today to talk to you about the cancellation of the engagement. What? Lei Ting was caught off guard when he heard the news. He thought that Fong Pinting was here to force him. Annul the engagement. Since you don't like me, then I don't need to continue hanging on your tree. Fong Pinting's eyes suddenly became serious. Are you serious? Lei Ting frowned. He knew very well how much she liked him. She actually proposed to cancel the engagement. No matter how he looked at it, it was a little strange. Mr. Lei, of course I'm serious. Fong Pinting smiled. Lei Ting then looked at Fong Pinting's parents. Neither of them said anything. Clearly, Fong Pinting had already convinced them. All right. Fong Pinting downed the red wine in one gulp and her red lips curled into a strange smile. The cancellation of the engagement between Lei Ting and Fong Pinting was a big deal. They occupied the headlines of the entire city. Of course, to be able to make such a big deal out of it, according to Shi Shang's suspicious gaze, it was most likely that someone was behind this, intending to blow the matter up. As for what the result was, Shi Shang didn't know. However, this didn't stop him from destroying the male lead. Instead, it helped him. Since the Fong family had cancelled the engagement with Lei Ting, didn't this mean that Lei Ting was done for? After this incident, people who had been watching from the sidelines all began to take action. Lei's group's bankruptcy was like a flood breaking through a dam. No one could stop it. Shi Shang found that Fong Pinting had been spying on Lei Ting, especially when Lei Ting was being bullied. She would stand up and seemingly help him, but she didn't speak to Lei Ting. Sometimes, she even pretended not to see him. But face, what's this ex-fiancé doing? Shi Shang touched his chin and asked the system. This behavior was strange no matter how he looked at it. How would I know? She must have taken too many drugs. She must have gone crazy. The system's answer was very self-indulgent. You were poisoned again? I was poisoned by the host. Smile, keep smiling. Shi Shang looked surprised. I'm that powerful? Shameless. Fong Pinting's appearance in the distance drew away the people who had been ridiculing Lei Ting. They clustered around Fong Pinting and entered the hotel. Su Xiaoxin. Hao Baobao rushed out of the hotel and pushed Fong Pinting away. Shi Shang clearly felt the murderous aura leaking from Fong Pinting, but because he found that Hao Baobao wasn't coming for her, he quickly restrained the murderous aura. KSK. This Fong Pinting couldn't have been seen through by someone, right? That kind of murderous aura, it was absolutely impossible for someone to have practiced for 10 or 20 years. Su Xiaoxin, damn, you didn't even come to the airport to pick me up. Hao Baobao began to scold as soon as she got close. Last time, did you complain to my dad? Su Xiaoxin, I treated you well. How could you do this to me? Lower your voice. Why are you shouting so loudly? People who don't know will think I did something. Why did this idiot come back? Wasn't it better to wander abroad? Hao Baobao took a deep breath, her voice louder than before. Su Xiaoxin, do you have a man? Passers-by, come and take a look, someone is being cuckolded. Shi Shang felt that these words were constantly popping up on the heads of these passers-by. I called you but you didn't answer, you didn't reply to my messages, you didn't reply to my emails. Su Xiaoxin, you want to go to heaven. Hao Baobao was still shouting. He was pissed off. To prevent himself from being watched like a monkey, Shi Shang decisively turned away and walked towards the car on the side of the road. Hao Baobao had never seen the car, but when Shi Shang got in, he subconsciously pulled the door open, but suddenly found that there was another person inside, and was taken aback. Wen Gu. Shi Shang was lying on the roof of the other side of the car. My man. Hao Baobao slammed the door shut, glared at Shi Shang, and opened the door again to make sure that he was not mistaken. This was Wen Gu. Hao Baobao sat in the front, a strange expression on her face. Several times she wanted to talk to Shi Shang, but when she saw Wen Gu, she swallowed her words and took out her phone to send a message. Number 1 sharpshooter. Su Xiaoxin, are you crazy? Su Xian, if I was crazy, you would be a corpse now. Number 1 sharpshooter. Wen Gu ah. That's Wen Gu, fuck. Do you know how much of a jerk he was in school? Hao Baobao was a gangster, so she had heard more rumors than others. Su Xian. He's not a jerk now. Number 1 sharpshooter. It's easy to change mountains and rivers, but it's hard to change a person's nature. What kind of taste do you have? There are so many good men in the world, but you don't like them, and only like this one. Su Xian. I like him. Hao Baobao looked back at Shi Shang, her hands silently giving him the middle finger. You wait, I'm going to tell on you. Hao Baobao and Su Xian were definitely experts at telling on each other's parents, and were not soft-hearted at all. Chapter 1598. Hao Baobao heard that Shi Shang had a wild man, so he ignored the risk of being hunted down by his parents and came back from abroad. When he came back, he found out that his little green plum was with a former tyrant. He wanted to die. And Wen Gu looked at him with a, "How did this man get to know my girlfriend?" look. The disdain in his eyes was so obvious that even Hao Baobao, a thick-skinned person, could clearly feel it. Su Xiaoxin, is he disdaining me? Hao Baobao pointed to Wen Gu and asked. Isn't he disdaining you? Wen Gu's expression at this time had changed to "You don't deserve to stand with my girlfriend," so he stepped in to pull Shi Shang back to his side and directly pushed Hao Baobao away. Hao Baobao. What are you doing? This is my girlfriend. Please keep your distance from her. Wen Gu looked at Hao Baobao. What girlfriend? I watched her grow up. Who do you think you are? Hao Baobao's hair stood on end. How could his good cabbage be taken by a pig? Although sooner or later she will be taken by a pig, but Su Xiaoxin, can't you find a good pig? Pig. Wen stared at Hao Baobao with an unkind expression. Hao Baobao. What scared Hao Baobao? Even if he relied on Su Xiaoxin liking him, he can't replace his position for so many years, humph. She will only live with me in the future. Then you don't know what she was like before. Shi Shang hurriedly interrupted them and pulled Hao Baobao to the side. Stop talking. Why do you say I'm not talking about him? Su Xiaoxin, you forgot your childhood friend because you have a man, right? You heartless thing, I came all the way back, just because I was afraid you would be deceived, and now you're bullying me with him." Hao Baobao was furious. Shi Shang's mouth twitched. "Big brother, please, he can't be too agitated. Don't provoke him, it will be troublesome if something happens." Hao Baobao stared. "You found a psychopath?" It's fine if his little green plum is a psychopath herself, but she also found a psychopath. Wouldn't he have to deal with 2 psychopaths in the future? Shi Shang was speechless. Although he felt that Shi Shang's words were a little annoying, he somehow felt that Shi Shang was right. "Su Xiaoxin, why are you so stubborn? With your beauty, it's not a problem for you to bring disaster to the country. Why do you have to find such a man? Are all the men in this world dead?" Hao Baobao was still stomping her feet. Ah! His little green plum had been taken by a pig. How infuriating! Shi Shang was too lazy to continue talking nonsense with Baby Hao. He directly threw Baby Hao down and dragged Wengu away. Wengu's originally slightly gloomy face immediately recovered its calm. "Su Xiaoxin, wait for me." Hao Baobao said that he was going back to China to visit Shi Shang, but Shi Shang found that he seemed to be hiding from someone. He was so paranoid that everyone seemed to be following him. Shi Shang suspected that he had met a pervert abroad. Until one day, she saw a lady grabbing Hao Baobao. She had a look that said, "How dare you, heartless man? I'm going to beat you to death." The latter cried and begged for mercy, trying to escape the lady's demonic grasp. In order to avoid the lady, Hao Baobao forcibly occupied Shi Shang's place. Shi Shang had to move in with Wengu. With one more person in Wengu's room, there were naturally more things. Wengu seemed to be a little unaccustomed to the extra things in the room. Several times he tried to throw things out, but after being discovered by Shi Shang, he silently picked them up and put them back. Shi Shang. There was only one bed in the room. Shi Shang stood by the bed. "Where do I sleep?" Wengu pointed to the bed. "What about you?" Shi Shang asked him with a faint smile. Wengu pointed to the ground again, but it was obvious that he disliked it. He reluctantly said, "You're a girl, you can sleep on the bed." When he said this, he was very reluctant, but he had to show a man's demeanor, so the forced expression looked a little aggrieved. "I don't mind sleeping with you." Wengu's eyebrows jumped, he lowered his head and said softly, "I'll sleep on the ground." "Really?" Wengu glanced at the bed and then at the ground. He was not asleep yet, but he felt uncomfortable all over. "But..." Wengu took a deep breath and nodded. The ground was also very clean, but Wengu kept feeling uncomfortable. He tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. The person on the bed did not move. Wengu propped himself up and looked at the bed. Before he could look away, he met a pair of eyes. Get up and drink water." Wengu got up from the ground. In the dark, he accidentally tripped over the quilt and fell directly on it. He lay on the quilt for a long time without moving, until someone helped him up from behind, carried him to the bed and stuffed him into the quilt without any explanation. "Stop it, go to sleep." Shi Shang hugged him and kissed him on the forehead. Back to his own bed, Wengu's discomfort disappeared immediately. Instead, because he was in Shi Shang's arms, he felt very peaceful. Wengu pulled out his hand and held Shi Shang instead. Restlessly, he leaned over and kissed her. Shi Shang avoided him and warned him in a low voice, "Don't make trouble, I don't know what I will do later." "Okay." Wengu responded. Instead of retreating, he took advantage of Shi Shang. Shi Shang was in a daze from the kiss and called his name intimately. Wengu seemed to want to go further, but Shi Shang suddenly grabbed his hand. His dazed eyes gradually became clear. "You've gone too far. Your body can't take it." That kind of thing was too shocking. Something bad would definitely happen. Wan Feigong bit Shi Shang's lips harshly and complained, "You did it first. Be reasonable, who kissed first?" "You." Shi Shang. Well, the patient was unreasonable. "I won't lower myself to the patient's level." Shi Shang pressed him back and warned him, "Go to sleep, don't kiss me again. I'm afraid that I won't be able to control myself." Shi Shang sighed in a low voice and hugged him tightly in his arms. Both of them were sweaty from the tossing and turning. At this time, they hugged each other even hotter. Wengu kicked the quilt away uncomfortably. His whole body was soft. Hugging him was like hugging a large pet. Wengu didn't sleep the whole night. Even Shi Shang couldn't fall asleep because of the tossing and turning. When they got up in the morning, Uncle Rong saw their expressions and showed a tacit and faint worried expression. After confirming that his young master's body was fine, his worry disappeared. Wengu lay on the sofa and closed his eyes to catch up on sleep. Hugging Shi Shang was like hugging a ball of fire. He couldn't fall asleep at all, but he liked that ball of fire very much. It was very comfortable. "Get up and eat something." Shi Shang poked Wengu. "No." Wengu turned over and turned his back to Shi Shang. "Be a good boy." Shi Shang pulled him up. "Drink some milk and sleep." Wengu's eyes were half open. The tip of his nose smelled the fragrant milk. He drank it in Shi Shang's hand and grew a milk beard. He stuck out the tip of his tongue and licked it. Then he leaned towards Shi Shang in a daze and rubbed her face forcefully. Shi Shang. Chapter 1599. How Bao Bao was chased all over the world by the girl, and finally found out that the girl was pregnant, so how Bao Bao married her. It was said that this was the story of how Bao Bao saving the damsel in distress. Of course, it wasn't because he was drunk or drugged. The girl insisted on marrying him, and the two inexplicably slept together. How Bao Bao was so scared that he ran back to his country. Who knew that the girl not only chased him back, but also got pregnant. With a child, how Bao Bao thought that as a good man, he had to take responsibility, so he had to marry her. Of course, the main thing was that if how Bao Bao didn't take responsibility, his parents would kill him and throw him into the river. "Do you like her?" The day before the wedding, how Bao Bao found Shi Shang to say goodbye to his singlehood. "I can't say, but I think she's quite pleasing to the eye." How Bao Bao didn't have a girlfriend for so many years. Some people thought that he liked his childhood sweetheart, and kept his chastity for her. But he wasn't, he just hadn't met the person he liked. Who knew that this time he would inexplicably fall? It's not too late to regret. How Bao Bao smoked, the smoke blurring his face. His voice was slightly hoarse but solemn. "The child in her belly is mine, I will love them in the future." He didn't hate the girl, he probably liked her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have half-heartedly accepted her that night. Shi Shang patted him on the shoulder. "Su Xiaoxin, where are you going?" "Wengu will find me when he wakes up. I'm going back, I'll see the groom tomorrow." "Fuck, you heartless bastard." How Bao Bao stomped his feet in anger. "Is there anyone else in your eyes besides Wengu?" Shi Shang turned around, the golden sunlight falling between her eyebrows, making her look unreal. She said, "I only have him in my eyes." How Bao Bao paused, then waved his hand impatiently. "Forget your friends when you see a girl, get out." At the wedding, when the host asked the girl if she was willing to marry How Bao Bao, the girl smiled brightly, exuding a "I am willing" from her heart. Wengu squeezed Shi Shang's hand. "Let's get married." "Ha!" Wengu turned his head to look at her. "You don't want to?" "It's not that, Guru. I've been very busy recently and haven't had time to get married. Ancient Worlds is about to start broadcasting and we have to attend many events. How would we have time to get married? Most importantly, you haven't even met my parents yet. Why don't we get married later? Why don't we register our marriage first?" Shi Shang hurriedly added when he saw Wengu's pale face. "Yes." Wengu agreed with the idea of getting a marriage certificate first. The process of getting the marriage certificate wasn't very smooth. Because How Bao Bao had probably instilled some scary thoughts into Father and Mother Su, they weren't very willing to give Shi Shang their household register. In the end, Shi Shang had to persuade them in every possible way to get them to accept that Wen Gu would be their son-in-law in the future. After getting the marriage certificate, Shi Shang was busy with Chen Gu's work. Sometimes, Wen Gu was alone at home. Sometimes, Shi Shang would take him to the company. At first, people in the company only thought that Wen Gu came to see Chen Gu's progress. But after a while, they found that something was wrong. When someone took a picture of Wen Gu helping Shi Shang tidy up his hair, everyone's guess was confirmed. No wonder their CEO pushed Chen Gu so hard. Chen Gu's early days were very popular. Their CEO had nowhere to spend his money, so he basically spent it all. This made the company's employees feel very pained. They felt pained because of their CEO's money. Therefore, Chen Gu achieved very good results on the first day of its broadcast. The production of Chen Gu was based on the best domestic and foreign standards. Except for a few exceptions, almost all of them received good reviews. At the same time, Chen Gu would also be released at the same time abroad. Although it was not the first animation to be released abroad, it was definitely the most successful. Later on, Shi Shang heard at an event that Lei Ting and Fong Pinting had gotten married. Fong Pinting first broke off the engagement with Lei Ting, then seemingly unintentionally helped Lei Ting. From the side, Lei Ting discovered that this woman was completely different from the one he saw. When a man was suppressed to the point where he could not fight back, he might need someone to stay by his side and never leave him. But more than that, he needed someone to bring him back to the top. Fong Pinting was that person. Shi Shang originally thought that Fong Pinting wanted Lei Ting to get back to the top. But after careful observation, she found that Fong Pinting's goal was not to bring Lei Ting back to the top. Instead, it was a kind of almost pathological possessiveness. She was breaking Lei Ting's wings bit by bit, making Lei Ting dependent on her. Sometimes, women were hopelessly stupid when it came to love. But when a woman woke up and wanted to use another way to possess a man, her IQ was definitely higher than everyone else's. Of course, Fong Pinting's success was mainly due to Shi Shang. If she had not put Lei Ting in danger first, Fong Pinting's plan would not have succeeded. Since someone wanted to deal with the male lead, Shi Shang did not do anything. Everyone was cannon fodder, so there was no need to worry too much. Dark Cloud, the female lead, was dealt with as soon as Fong Pinting got Lei Ting. It was said that Dark Cloud was pregnant at the time, and Fong Pinting had people rape her until the child was gone. No one knew where Dark Cloud went after that. Anyway, Shi Shang never saw her again. But he did see Lei Ting a few times when he was with Fong Pinting. Fong Pinting held his arm with a smile, but Lei Ting was as numb as a zombie. After that, Fong Pinting never brought Lei Ting out again. The evil female lead was really scary. Good results for thousands of years also established Ku Man's status. However, everyone found that their CEO was only interested in the works of their own partners. As for the other works, no matter how much they boasted, she would only let them do as they saw fit. No one knew who took Shi Shang's previous work, The Villain, as a project. After all, it was their CEO's work. Of course, they could not waste their own resources. But Shi Shang had not updated for a long time, and there was no end to it. It seemed that she was going to abandon it. Every time Shi Shang went to the company, he was urged to finish it. Shi Shang's answer was always that she would finish it when she was free. She had time to draw all kinds of 18+ works, but she did not have time to fill in the holes. The employees were very angry. But what could they do? Of course, they could only choose to forgive her. After all, she was the CEO. Shi Shang used a different method to draw an empire for the original owner of the body. She was named as the best painter of 18+ works. If she drew poorly, it would be a pornographic picture. If she drew well, it would be art. Later, people found that the works of the famous author, Shi Xia, would always have strange small plays and strange pictures. Her popularity soared. Wen Gu was angry and amused, but he could not do anything to Shi Shang. In the end, he could only let her be. Wen Gu recovered his memory very quickly this time, and it was a bit strange. He woke up one day and his memory was restored. Wen Gu stuttered. Obviously, He knew why he regained his memory. Shi Shang pestered him for a long time, but he did not tell Shi Sheng. Shi Sheng thought about it carefully. That night, she seemed to have only touched Xiao Wen once, and did nothing else after that. Wasn't the way to restore his memory through stimulation? Why was she so gentle this time? Because of Wan Gu's health condition, he did not stay in this world for long. Wan Gu and Shi Sheng passed away at the same time. The 46th world ended. Ha 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 ha. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.